Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I will now call the workshop to order at 2:54 p.m. Mrs. Sinclair, please call the roll.
District 1, Matthew Lane.
Here.
District 2, Virginia Savietto.
Here.
District 3, Karen Brill.
Here.
District 4, Erica Whitfield.
Here.
District 5, Gloria Branch.
Here.
District 6, Marcia Andrews.
Here.
District 7, Edwin Ferguson.
Here.
Also joining us for today's meetings are Superintendent Michael Burke, General Counsel Sean Bernard, Inspector General Teresa Michael, and Board Clerk Tony Sinclair. Senior staff members will join us periodically as directed by the Superintendent. Viewers and listeners can access the meeting today by either watching on Comcast channels 234 and 235, UVerse channel 99, or by using the YouTube link on our webpage at palmbeachschools.org. In the event that the link is interrupted for technical reasons, please switch over to the TV channels. All board meetings are recorded in their entirety and posted on the district website within 24 hours. We also offer a listening-only option, which the public can access by calling 561-357-5900 or toll-free at 1-866-930-7015. The meeting ID is 1-561-880-1124#. So, Mr. Superintendent, I'm now going to turn it over to you for the workshops.
Thank you, Chair Brill. We have 4 workshops for the board today. The first one up is on exceptional student education, our pre-K program. So we've got Ms. Maria Bishop, our Chief Academic Officer, Mr. Kevin McCormick, our Executive Director of Exceptional Student Education, and Ms. Laura Pincus, our Assistant General Counsel. So team, the floor is yours.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here with the team, and today we're going to be presenting, as Mr. Burke said, the pre-K workshop for ESE. Although we do offer a wide variety of early childhood programming, we will be focusing on the ESE programming this afternoon. And I'll go ahead and turn it right over to Mr. McCormick.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, school board. Thank you for your interest as the current school year builds in excitement to be able to get our kids back and really get back to our work. Our ESE department mission to ensure students with disabilities receive appropriate educational and related services, leading to increased student achievement and successful post-school outcomes. It all starts with pre-K. The school district of Palm Beach County, through the Department of Exceptional Student Education, is responsible for identifying 3- and 4-year-olds who are eligible for services under IDEA, the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, and if eligible, make sure that we establish services through what's called an IEP, an individual education plan. Once students receive that plan, parents have the opportunity to be able to choose how they want to access services at the pre-K level. Parents choose to bring them to us in public school. They also have the choice to maintain their children in a community program or take advantage of a voucher, just like our other K-12 students, through Florida Empowerment Scholarship. And when they have an IEP, it makes them eligible for the unique abilities aspect of the Florida Empowerment Scholarship Voucher Program. Over 1,700 students are made eligible annually for our pre-K ESE services. Our programming annually, especially this past year, has over 2,500 students participating in the pre-K ESE program within our public school system. For FY26, we intend to add 7 more programs to the 183 programs that were offered last year. So this year we anticipate opening 190 programs to serve the over 2,500 students who we typically serve annually. We also have innovated since the pandemic and have provided itinerant services within community programs, which are, some of them are Easter Seals, others are independent pre-K programs, others are PPECs, which are programs that serve students who are more medically complex and require medical services. Our teachers will provide in-program services to those students whose parents choose not to bring them to our pre-K programs. So what we did to be able to further answer the question and provide some insight to the discussion that that resulted in this workshop is we created a heat map. What you're looking at here is the northern region of our county. On the top of the screen, you see Jupiter, and at the bottom, that's just about Okeechobee Boulevard north. So as you look at this, the yellow are our students in that area of our community, 1 to 4 students within that area. And then as you can see, the color coding, the key on the left, which when you get to the more densely populated regions of our county, you see it get more red and into the maroon, where more students are identified. The schools you see in this map are schools that provide pre-K ESE programming. Not every school provides every aspect of programming, but they do provide pre-K ESE programs. This next map is the central region of our county, from Okeechobee Southern Boulevard on the top of the screen all the way down to Delray. Again, you see that same trend with densely populated areas having more students that require services, and also the amount of programming also increases. And then this is the southern region from, looks like northern Delray down to Boca Raton. And then this is our Glades region from Canal Point on the top all the way down to South Bay. And in this, you see that Belglade region where it's more densely populated. We see a higher identification of students within that region. So when becoming eligible for services, students open up their ability to be able to receive services based on their individual needs. A lot of our students, all of our students with IEPs, benefit from federal law under IDEA and also the Americans with Disabilities Act, ADA. Students with 504 plans benefit from ADA, and the department also supports that program. The ESE department also supports multi-tiered systems of support in school-based teams, which is really focused around prevention. When students have an early warning sign through the data that we monitor, we provide interventions to be able to hopefully be more proactive and provide services prior to them requiring more intensive services through an individualized education plan. Accommodations and services are provided to students under 14 areas of eligibilities within ESE. The scope of programming is all therapies, OT, occupational therapy, physical therapy, PT, and SLP, speech language pathology. Students also receive assistive technology, audiology, American Sign Language. The audiology and ASL is for our students who are deaf and hard of hearing. Braille and orientation and mobility for our students who with low vision or who are blind. Augmentative adaptive communication or alternative communication is often utilized for students on the autism spectrum who are nonverbal or need assistance with communicating through technology. We have services and supports for students with more mental health needs under the area of emotional behavioral disabilities and programming, as well as what we are very proud of, which is our post-secondary transition programming, which is for all students with disabilities when they choose to defer their diploma when they're eligible for graduation to come back to us and continue to work on IEP goals in order to prepare for adulthood up to and through the school year of their 22nd birthday. The scope of ESE programming, of course, aligns with state and federal regulations. We provide academic and reading intervention along with behavioral intervention services. All of our students and parents, we represent parent services, so we're very proactive in making sure parents learn how to be able to support their children within their home based on what they're experiencing in the community, at school, and also within the home. We do this in collaboration with organizations like CARD at FAU, the Center for Autism and Related Disabilities, and other organizations within our community. Parentally placed private school services. So there are parents, as we know, who take advantage of the voucher. IDEA requires us to be able to utilize a portion of that grant to be able to provide services for parents who choose that option. We support parents through the FES, the voucher program, as well as, of course, try to provide professional development and coordinate support for our non-instructional staff to meet the individual needs of students with disabilities on our campuses. Our scope of programming for general standardized curriculum, so we have 78.4% of our SWD population, our students with disabilities, in inclusive general education classrooms. We provide supports within that inclusive classroom, but also support administrators and staff to be sure that their master scheduling and master boards allow for students to fully benefit for everything on campus with that inclusive mindset. Instructional implementation and best practices includes accommodations and general education supports. We also support them with models and best practices for planning and coordinating instruction when you have a teacher, an additional teacher in the classroom to be able to support students with disabilities. We have little over 1% of our students who qualify for most significant cognitive disabilities. In that case, we provide specialized instruction and instructional approaches for students on access point standards, which is the modified curriculum, as well as provide direction and support and monitoring for students who take the Florida Alternative Assessment. Now, this is a brief summary of our data and outcomes. There is a lot of data that comes in at all levels for students with disabilities. This is a brief highlight. We have almost 32,000 students with disabilities who are supported under IDEA with IEPs within our county. Over 15,000 students with 504 plans protected under ADA, also within our county. From 2012 to 2023, the school district has increased the graduation rate by 36.3%, something we are obviously very proud of, and we continue to work on maintaining and increasing. During this time, we decreased the federally monitored dropout rate from the students in the ages of 14 to 21 from 39% to 9.9%, and we anticipate and know, because that's a lagging indicator, that that will continue to decrease over time. This is a visual representation of overall student achievement in English language arts. As you can see, this data goes back to 2014-15. Gradual progress, from my perception, is sustainable progress in this area. As you can see in 22-23, there is a dip. And as you can imagine, we spent a lot of time and effort trying to figure out why. What we determine and hypothesize is that these are the students, and we know that these are the students who tested in third grade, who received virtual instruction when they were in kindergarten. So we continue to address those needs and provide services and intervention and support to be able to close those gaps. You can see the following 2 school years, we rebounded back up to 29.1%, and this year, very proud of that continued increase up to 33.5%. Although proud, I do want to recognize there was plenty of work to be done. The proudness in that is the data is moving in the right direction, and what we're doing appears to be working, and students are benefiting. We know that 33% of achievement is an opportunity to continue that growth over time. This data, although small on your computers, the blue data on the top there are all students in Palm Beach County graduation rate over the years. The bottom red line is students with disabilities. That widest gap you see there is 25.8%. Over time, up through last 23-24, we closed the gap of graduation to 2%. So truly closing the gap of, I'm going to say, proportionality between SWDs and all students, we're very proud that we've been able to make progress and allow for all children, despite having a disability, to be able to graduate with a diploma. Thank you for your time today.
So I'm going to actually start us off. I have a few questions, but I just have to say, hearing the graduation rate, seeing the progress, it warms my heart. Ms. Pincus, you and I know each other a very long time, and 30 years ago, we were nowhere near where we are today, so I thank you. My questions actually go back, not specifically, but it brings me to slide number 5, which is the pre-K ESE programming. When you talk about the ESE pre-K units, the 100 going up to 190, you're talking about just strictly ESE, you're not talking about ESE students in the VPK? So these are separate programs?
Correct. These are classrooms that are allocated for students with disabilities. To your point, our students still benefit from early childhood education's VPK programming.
This is sort of like the ABC programs we had back in the day, but separate programs. So then my next question is, because I see that you're serving the students, 156 in community pre-K sites, are we still transporting students back to, during the day, students that attend the pre-K, taking them to their private daycares? Because that was something we used to do, is taking them back to their full-time program.
Correct. It is an option. There are a variety of options that parents have. That is one of them.
Okay, terrific. And then my last question is something that you and I know about. I don't know if there's been any progress in the conversations about Children's Services Council assisting in the identification process for child find. Has anything come of that yet?
As a result of their board meeting, I did have a follow-up with their CEO, and there were follow-up discussions, and that's the latest I have. There has been no action yet.
Okay, so please, if you would, to the superintendent, if it's all right for Mr. McCormick to follow up with me, since I sit on that board. And since you sit on that board, I think that it would be a huge benefit to us if we can get extra help in getting these kids identified, because we know that the earlier we start to provide supports in the schools, the better the outcomes.
Yes, absolutely.
And I'll now go to Vice Chair Andrews.
Thank you so much. And I was looking for you, and I know you're on vacation, to tell you I was so proud of the scores and the work from your MTSS team, your school-based team groups that's out there working with the schools. It was fabulous. And when we listened today for our dropout rates, our graduation rates, I mean, really, it's declining because of the wonderful work that you have out there. I had the opportunity to work with a group from your post-secondary transitioning program. That's a superstar group of helping our children, once they get to the level of graduation, having the next steps of their lives taken care of. So I wish you could kind of say a little bit about that. I know West Technical Education Center is one of your newest centers that's going to be working with our students in that category. So could you talk a little bit about that to us?
Sure. When referring to that program, I mentioned how excited we are about these programs. As students have the opportunity, they meet all their graduation criteria, they have the opportunity to defer their diploma and stay with us to, like I said, work on adulthood skills. So we work on travel training, so how to use public transportation, because they may not have a license, or even if they do have a license, they may not have a car to be able to drive. So we do travel training and work with our partners in public transportation to be able to allow for that. We do pre-employment job training, and we do job coaching. So as we assist our young adults with being able to apply for jobs and prepare their skills and interview skills, while they're on the job, we have the opportunity to have job coaches go in and support children to the right degree, because our goal for this is to foster independence. It is not to foster dependency on us. We want them to be independent and to no longer need us and be gainfully employed as they transition into adulthood. Specifically in the Glades, we've been able to start that program. We do have that program in every other region of our county. This year, we're very excited to start that program to support our Tri-City area in the Glades region, and it's moving along very well. We have very talented, caring staff. I do have to say our staff in the ESE department lead with their hearts, and focus on individual needs of kids. And really, that's what we're doing in this situation and making sure that we improve outcomes, as our mission says.
Yeah, absolutely, and your staff is absolutely fabulous. Just getting the training through the Glades region and the leaders, it's a big deal coming to the Glades all over the county, taking care of our kids. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Ms. Whitfield?
Thank you so much. I just want to, first of all, thank you all for the work that you do. It's amazing and wonderful. And pre-K kind of has my heart. I love the work that we do to get children ready for school. I'm just curious about the number of students that are seeking ESE placements or preschool placements and how we are comparing to the availability of slots.
Okay, so I prepared for this question. So we currently have approximately 1,000 students in the queue who parents have called, providers have referred, physicians have referred. That queue, about 90% of that population, our current rate is being able to screen and evaluate them within 5 months. That other 10%, just like any other public service, we're playing phone tag or trying to coordinate schedules, and we never take them out of our queue unless parents are purely non-responsive or come out and tell us that they do not want to move forward in the process. So we have been increasing programs annually as that demand has increased. Autism, for example, is a population we continue to see increase within our community, and working with other districts throughout the state and in the nation, everybody is seeing that trend. So we are responding to that and like I said, continuing to add programs to ensure that we can provide them services. The unique aspect of this program is these programs start out very small in the school year. Depending on where they are, there are some programs that start off at capacity, but the majority grow over time, and then come December, January, and March, they're higher at capacity. At no time do we deny services for children. We work with parents, we work with schools, we work with transportation to be able to accommodate and service the students that are eligible.
So do you think that we need to be allocating more funds to create more ESE preschool programs within our schools? Are you seeing the private sector stepping up and adding additional slots as well?
So is funding an issue? Not from my perception right now. IDEA has been able to meet our needs, working with our CFO and our district leadership. Mr. Burke has always been great for our students with disabilities. It is currently not an issue for us. Do we need to continue to grow in capacity and find space at schools in specific areas? There is that opportunity, and we continue to take advantage of that opportunity year by year as things change. The other unique part of this is we don't know where the next kid is going to move into or become eligible, so it's all very much a moving target, and making sure that we're able to adapt and meet their needs.
Okay, thank you so much. I really do think you guys are one of the best departments. You just blow my mind all the time. Thank you for all your work.
It means a lot. Thank you.
Ms. Branch?
I just wanted to say thank you, Mr. McCormick, and your team for all your hard work, and it's really great to see these wonderful results. So keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Ms. Salvato?
Hi, I have 2 questions. So I love the post-secondary transition programming. This is wonderful. This is great because, we definitely need to empower these kids, not kids anymore, to be, thriving in our community. I would love to see a list of your partners. Do you see an opportunity to work with some other agencies that maybe we haven't tapped on? Do we work with Siegel Industries? And I'd love to see the list because I've been involved in the community, so I would like to see maybe who we're missing.
I can absolutely follow up with that and confirm with you, yes, we work with Siegel and the majority of other nonprofits or even private organizations that support students with disabilities, including our charter schools and our private schools that are out in our community. There's no competition when it comes to serving children. We work together to meet their needs.
Oh, that's wonderful. And well, congratulations. I was highlighting, and my mind, when I saw the 36% increase and then you decreased, right? The dropout from 39 to like almost 10, and I'm thinking, how do you do it? So do we know how did we achieve such a huge number of increase, like to drop out from almost
We do.
40% to 10%? I mean, how do we do it? Maybe we can,
One kid at a time.
no, well, that's fine. but
Seriously.
Yeah.
No, part of it,
What shifted, what made you say, well, this is not working, maybe we should do it this way, right? I mean, something had to shift within that period for you to shift your what you were doing.
so when being responsible for almost 32,000 students, you have to establish systems, and those systems need to limit the vulnerability of errors and allowing kids to be able to fall in between or not be able to get the attention they need. And through a variety of initiatives, we've been able to tighten up those systems and processes. Part of that has been working collaboratively with other departments to ensure when data rolls from one school year to the next, that we're not dropping kids out for the wrong reason. That was an issue with that data. And part of establishing these systems has pretty much alleviated the misrepresentation of data, but also to ensure the kids who need attention and possibly leave us. Some leave and we don't know why. So we have teams in schools, both in the department, the region, and the schools that identify each kid individually and try to figure out what happened and why and where they are, and try not to code them as whereabouts unknown.
Yeah, and that's very important because I always say that children don't come alone, right? They have families and they may need their wraparound services. And sometimes children, when they don't come to school, it's not about them, maybe something that happened at home. Or so I think that system I really like, and we should apply it at every section in our education system. Thank you.
Mr. Ferguson?
Hey, Mr. McCormick, quick question for you. In regard to the upcoming school year, and also great presentation.
Thank you.
In regard to this upcoming school year, do we have any additional ESE units that are going to be placed in that Riviera Beach, West Palm Beach area east of Australian that you know of? I see the heat zones and what have you, but.
Yeah, I just want to go to it, so I'm a visual person. I accommodate myself when I do that. So Grove Park, that program is 3 years old. I'm just looking at the others. There are, on this map right here, none of the programs that are represented will be new next school year.
Well, this is an issue that I brought before then Deputy Superintendent Tierney last year, and I was told that this was being worked on and that we were going to be having some additional units in that area because we're at capacity. Seminole Trails is bursting at the seams, and you have families who don't have they're not very mobile, and they have special needs children who are not being served, or if they are served, they're having to go, honestly, past Grove Park. I believe Eisenhower was where I was told some of these parents are going. So I was told this was something that we were working on. So do you know anything about this, or is this something that's still in the works, even though we're a few weeks away from school starting?
So we we do not have any additional programs being allocated at this time in the region that you're referring to. I do know as a result of the shift in programming with West Riviera and Lincoln and all of that that's happening, to add a program when we know there's going to be movement was something we considered. And when programming for students, continuity and service is something we consider. And that was one of the reasons why, in working with Dr. Long in the North, when considering adding programs, that was one of the barriers we came across.
But we've never had any programs here, aside from the 1 or 2 units. I believe it's 1 unit. Even if it's 2 at Lincoln, you have a very dense area in terms of students. And that initiative that you're referring to is one that I brought before the board, and the board ultimately agreed to. That just happened this past school year. So I'm not sure what conversations are being had at the regional level, Superintendent Burke, but this is troubling, and I'm hoping that this is something that we can rectify sooner than later. I understand it's probably not going to be addressed this school year, even though it was represented to me that it would be, but I'm hoping that we can kind of jump on this for 26, 27, because this is a problem.
Just one point of clarification. We did attempt to open a program for many years while I was the coordinator in the north, and then again, when I got this position at Washington Elementary, and it was very difficult to staff, which is a challenge in all of our programs throughout the county. Staffing is a concern in making sure that students get the right people in front of them to make sure they get the required services on their plan. So that was a challenge we had back then, which led us to closing the program because we were unable to staff it, kids in program without the teachers, and we moved the program elsewhere as a result. But that doesn't mean we're not going to continue to try. We can absolutely do that if.
I don't want to go back and forth with you on this, and I don't want to belabor the point. Like I said, your presentation was strong. I'm just expressing my concerns, and we can definitely talk offline. And I represented to you who I had spoken to before and what was told to me by that person, not you. And I was directing my comment to Superintendent Burke. So I understand what you're saying whenever you were at Washington. I'm not sure when that was. But the point is the point, and I'm being contacted by residents who feel that this is a need, so maybe we can revisit it now. And I was told that we had already revisited it, but it sounds like that wasn't conveyed to you, which is why I pivoted to Superintendent Burke and said, I understand that we probably can't rectify this issue this upcoming school year, but to the extent we can rectify it in 26, 27, I'm hoping that we really take a hard look at that because these families are in need, and they're not as mobile as some of the other families in other parts of the county. So,
All right,
gotta
we'll
help.
continue to look at it. Taking another look. Thanks.
Vice Chair Andrews?
Thank you, and I just want to say again to Kevin, you were just so awesome, and it shows in Palm Beach County when we keep the best employees in place. I've seen you grow to the level that you are now, and what the work that you do makes such a difference. But I want to highlight the bus drivers and your coordination with transportation. Many of these little ones are on the bus. I usually go to the bid day, which is happening really within the next few days, where the bus drivers pick their buses, and they all want to be with their special ed children. I mean, the bus drivers that we have here in our district, it means so much for them to make sure they get that bid so that they can actually continue from year to year taking care of the children, the little ones, as well as all the other ones that are a part of our ESE programs, to be on the bus with the right fit and match for the school. And that work that you do with Sage Searchwell and Miss right back there. I haven't seen him in a while, but you get that work done, and that piece is so critical for this outstanding success that we're seeing. Our children are graduating. They're not dropping out because they're getting love starting from the beginning of the day when they get to the schools with the teams and the teachers and when they go home. And a lot of that, Mr. Ferguson, ties into travel. That's kind of scary when you're a little one and you have to get on a bus, that you have to have love, and certainly great drivers too. Mrs. Sanchez, thank you so much.
And so I'm going to close us out with my little wish. And we've spoken about this before to the superintendent, that we talk all the time about growing our own, about hiring our graduates. And so I think that we do have a unique opportunity to also hire our graduates with disabilities. And so in your transition program, Mr. McCormick, and to the superintendent, when you see some students who might be able to serve as an apprentice or to move into a position that we have, I think that we can really pave the way in the state if we show that we've not only educated these students, that these students have become successful, and that we're hiring them, because there's many jobs that they can do in our district, and we have openings. So that's my wish to see over the next few years, that we develop a program and that we look to those students and treat them like all the other employees that we have. So with that, I'll turn it back over to the superintendent.
All right. Thank you, Chair Brill, and we share that goal. Team, don't go far. You've got another workshop right ahead of you. Policy 5.725, Exceptional Student Education Policies and Procedures. And this is a policy, I think the board's aware that the board's language in this policy is really quite brief, and then we're provided a model policy through the State Department of Education. So the state has updated their model policy, and that reflects the changes being brought before you this afternoon. So, Mr. McCormick?
Thank you very much. This is our exceptional student education policy. According to state law, we're required to revisit this policy at least every 3 years. And what this really does is it updates our processes and procedures based on legislation. It requires us to update data and dates and priority needs as we address what the state document requires us to address. So in the updated policy and what we're here to workshop today are specific legislation changes that have happened over the last 3 years. One of them is extending developmentally delayed, which is one of our 14 eligibilities, to the age of 9. Previously, once a child turns 6 or goes into kindergarten, they must be dismissed from developmentally delayed. Fortunately, legislation has extended that to the age of 9 or when a child transitions into 3rd grade, whichever comes first. They updated eligibility criteria for vision impairment and deaf and hard of hearing. Every 3 years, schools, as well as the district, are required to do the BPI, which is Best Practices for Inclusive Education. As we do that, we update the dates, we update our priority needs and the data that's required within the document the state provides. As you all know, we monitor our restraint data very closely. As part of this policy, we're required to update our data and be able to address our current needs for reduction in that data. We also have to update our plan for increasing participation for our underrepresented groups in gifted program. Here was legislation also came approximately 3 years ago where the state updated the criteria that allows for students to be eligible to receive modified instruction through modified standards. In the last presentation, we talked about access points. That's exactly what we're referring to with this rule change. It requires us to have processes to monitor the compliance of doing that, and that has been completed and reflected in this policy. Also, that our current practices are aligned with what the state requires within their updated changes for that, and that includes intellectual, the IQ and ability, but also the intervention that's provided and a variety of other criteria that is required before identifying children for access points and taking the Florida Alternative Assessment. They also give special circumstances because we have some students who do not really participate in the IQ testing, and we have to get an approved plan to be able to evaluate students who meet that criteria for that exception. And that's pretty much all we have for this policy.
All right, well, no questions. Nice job, Mr. McCormick, Ms. Bishop, Ms. Pincus, thank you. That'll take us to our third workshop. I'm going to invite up Mr. Tim Kubrick, our Chief of Human Resources, and he's going to take us through some recommended changes to Policy 3.85, employment of substitute teachers, teachers of adult education, and non-degree teachers of career programming. Thank you, Mr. Kubrick. He's also joined by Ms. Jean Marie Middleton, our senior attorney.
All right, good afternoon. Board Chair Brill, Vice Chair Andrews, Board members, Superintendent Burke. We're bringing Policy 3.85 revisions today, really as an effort to clean up policy that needed some revisions. So this policy governs the employment of substitute teachers, teachers of adult education, and non-degree teachers in career and technical education programs. The nature of these changes are really just to clarify the minimum requirements and compensation for substitute teachers is posted on the district website. Here you can see exactly what has been changed. The new language will say substitute teachers can find information on minimum requirements and compensation on the Palm Beach County School District's website, palmbeachschools.org, under careers section. The revision keeps our policy flexible so that as we do change pay rates or if qualifications do change, we don't have to bring that to the board each time. There are no changes to the teachers of adult education or non-degreed teachers in career and technical education. It's just that in regards to the substitute position. We're planning to bring this back for development on September 10th and adoption on November 5th. That's it.
All right, thank you, Mr. Kubrick. Ms. Middleton. That'll take us to our final workshop, Policy 1.03 School Board Meeting. And Ms. Gina Leiser, our senior attorney, is going to help take the board through that presentation.
All right, and thank you, Mr. Superintendent. As Ms. Leiser makes her way up to the front and to the board, Ms. Leiser is going to walk you through the background on how we got here, but just as a reminder, there was a pretty significant case involving Brevard County Schools, which is what essentially brings us here today to make some changes to Policy 1.03 in accordance with and in line with that case. And so I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Leiser. Of course, this is Policy 1.03, which deals with how the board governs itself, and looking at and outside of Robert's rules. This is an opportunity for the board not just to look at those changes that we are recommending based on what came out of that case, but this is an opportunity for the board, as in a workshop, to dialogue to the extent there are other areas contained in 1.03 that is at the pleasure of the board to either expand or change, or essentially whatever the board sees fit in doing with how it governs itself. So I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Leiser, and she will take us through the process.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Bernard. Thank you, Board, Superintendent, and Madam Chair. First, we're going to walk through some of the legal department's suggestions for changes that are derived from the case law that Ms. Bernard spoke of. Starting off first with the purpose of Policy 1.03, our policy generally outlines our process and procedures for our school board meetings. That includes our agenda, our voting process, and our public comment process. And that is really where our suggestions for change really stem from, is public comment. So our recommendations are really derived from the case law that came out of the case from the 11th Circuit Court, which is the Moms for Liberty of Brevard County versus Brevard Public Schools case. It deemed that certain provisions that were in the policy of Brevard County Public School was a restriction of free speech, and it was deemed to be unconstitutional both on its face and others that were unconstitutional as applied in that particular case by that school district. And so we looked at our Policy 1.03 through the lens of the court's ruling to really analyze any language that could be perceived as problematic from the court as it applies to our school district policy. So starting with the first amendment that we identified, personal comments, the District Court of Appeals took issue with the prohibition of personal comments to school board members as being unconstitutional as applied. There was really no definition in Brevard County as to what personal comments were prohibited. There was an application of that prohibition that really applied the prohibition of personal comments to negative comments and not to positive comments, and the court declared that to be an unconstitutional restriction on free speech. So our proposal is to remove the language that is very similar and mirrors Brevard County's prohibition and put in specific parameters of what is really being prohibited and what is not. So it would remove the personal comments directed at board member prohibition, and it would include in there, instead of saying personal comments, it would be irrelevant comments about board members would still be prohibited. And then we would direct that, subject to the relevancy requirement in our rules, that the board engages with the community with public comments and that there would be no viewpoint discrimination. That is language that was already in the rule, so we are just kind of amending it to tweak it to make it a little bit more clear and a little bit more well-defined, which is what the court asks and requires that we do. Turning then to the civility and decorum for preventing disruption of public meetings. Vulgar language was another issue that came up in the Brevard County case, in that there is a legal definition of obscene speech or conduct, but that there is not a legal definition of vulgar language, and restricting that does not put the public on notice. So our proposal is to remove the vulgar language requirement, include obscene speech or conduct, which does have a clear legal definition, include threats of violence, which can be prohibited and would not run afoul of the First Amendment, and specifying that additionally, no person attending the board meeting shall harass any other person who attends the meeting. And that is also just rewording the language that was already in policy to make it a little bit more clear to the public. Additionally, we are proposing that we tweak the language in the bottom of paragraph 2 here that stated previously such consent must be given unanimously by means of a motion to extend the time limits. This pertains to a request by board members to extend that three-minute time period that is a restriction on the board. We wanted to make it clear the process. And so what it previously stated is that it could be unanimous or extended by a motion. And it was a little bit unclear as to how you can get that unanimous consent without a motion. So to alleviate any confusion, we wanted to kind of solidify that and make sure it was clear to obtain an additional time that there should be a motion and that the majority of the board would vote on it, and that if granted, it would be approved. Okay, if the board, once we have our discussion, we are scheduled for a development on September the 10th and proposed for adoption on November 5th, if we are to go forward on that. In addition to our proposals, as Ms. Bernard said, we did provide the board with a number of addendums, which is just sample language for the board to consider. I have that available. If the board would like us to pull it up on the screen, I'm happy to do so that we can look through that. It's at the board's discretion.
Okay, so before we go on to the addendums, board members, you may also find that you're experiencing that board docs has gone down. So we're kind of traveling a little bit blindly here. We'll see if you want us to go through the addendums. I have printed out the policy, and I have two very simple fixes just to mention for everybody and to get your input. There is on line 272, which you can't really pull up. Back in the day during COVID, when we had a contentious item before the board, we were getting hundreds of phone calls, hundreds of emails. We put in our policy, and I know Ms. Whitfield will remember those days, well, not so fondly, but we put something in our policy that if somebody wanted to write into us prior to the board meeting for us to read their opinion, that we would limit them to 400 words. I'm suggesting that we really don't need that. We do get emails that are often more than that. There's no real way to monitor it. So if you're all okay with it, I believe we all read our emails. I don't see that we need to limit it. So I'm seeing heads shaking that people are in agreement. So that would be for the legal department, line 272. The writing is limited to 400 words and must be received by the board, blah, blah, blah. So we could just take out the 400 words. It's good for it to arrive in enough time for us to read it, but we don't have to limit them. And then the other piece that I picked up on, which I might have been distracted because of board docs as you were presenting, was that the amended policies, the suggestions, doesn't talk about our technology. So I've asked General Counsel, when you bring the policy back, because there is a section where it talks about making the main motion and how we respond. That's got to be massaged to reflect the way we vote. So that's something that we'll have them do. So with that, I'm going to move on to Mr. Ferguson.
First of all, Madam Chair, my board docs seem to be working fine. As far as these addendums, Madam Chair, tell me how these proposed addendums, which aren't in the agenda, at least on board docs, how they relate to the Brevard County case. Can we have Counsel explain that?
They don't, sir. The addendums are really not meant as proposals from legal. They are not legally required. There is no requirement in the law that they be considered or adopted by the board. These are just language that is proposed. If the board wants to discuss it, wants to consider any of that, if the board decides that none of that is desirable to the board, you certainly are free to do so.
Madam Chair, question to General Counsel. Are we permitted to discuss something that hasn't been properly noticed in this workshop? Because I just saw this minutes before our closed session started, and it wasn't on my agenda anywhere, these addendums.
So you are at liberty to discuss 1.03. You can pick and choose what portion of 1.03. 1.03 has been properly noticed. And so because 1.03 has been properly noticed, it's pretty much an open canvas to the board to be able to discuss any aspect of it that it so chooses or not.
So who should I direct my questions to in regard to the addendum? The proposed changes to what was included in the agenda, I definitely think are reasonable and make sense based on I guess, my limited understanding of the case that you referred to. But this other business in the Addendum A, who would you recommend, I guess, General Counsel effectively as our Sergeant of Arms or at arms? Who should I direct my questions to concerning Addendum A?
Well, Addendum A really only comes into play if any one particular board member has an interest in introducing that. So you all are free to have an open if any one member says that they want to introduce anything from the addendums, you all are free to engage with each other to see if that is of interest and how you might want to tell us what language you would like to see in 1.03 or not.
Thank you.
Ms. Whitfield?
Thank you. So similar to Mr. Ferguson, I didn't see Addendum A, but I was able to read it earlier today, so that worked out. But in my preparation, I didn't see it. I do think that it brings up a couple of interesting ideas around the ideas of discussion items and limiting them. I think that 3 minutes is probably too short. Discussions are supposed to be, in my perspective, a discussion. And so I feel like some limitations, though, would be beneficial to facilitate the meeting. So I don't hate the idea of limiting discussion, but I think we should limit it to 10 minutes per item for someone that's brought forward. And then the maximum of 2, I thought, seemed like a good idea, just to make sure that our night does not go on more than we expected it to. But I'll put that out there for any other board member to comment.
I'm just going to ask a question. So you're talking about the discussion items?
Yes, discussion items.
Okay, so making it a maximum of 10 minutes, but keeping it on the topic that the person has requested
Yes.
for clarification. Is everybody okay with that? Okay. Well, Ms. Savietto, why don't we respond on these items? Because if we jump around to each person, we're never going to
Right.
get clarity on each
Yeah,
item.
definitely. I did. So this is special rule of order, section B.2, right? Board member having obtained the floor while a debatable motion is immediately pending.
No, I'm sorry. This is only about discussion items that are, at the end of our meetings, and we have a discussion item.
We're not
So we'll
talking
get
about
to
one-
that one later. But if anybody has any comments about when we add a discussion item at our meeting, Ms. Whitfield, and I'm hoping I'm clarifying this for everyone, is saying, don't limit us to 3 minutes, limit us to 10 minutes, and 2 times speaking. Does anybody else have any?
Well, I do have a problem with limiting us, period. We don't need minutes. We're not in school, and we are elected officials, and this is the only time we can speak to each other and about a subject that we may also want to speak about. So saying that we have 3 minutes, 2 minutes, 10 minutes, you're the chair, so I think maybe you could figure it out when it's, maybe a time to wrap it up. But these minutes here at the dais, I don't see how I can go to my constituents and say, well, I only had 3 minutes to speak on an item, and twice, that's it, and then, or I have to ask for permission. So, I mean, we're adults, and we're here representing our constituents, so I think we should, I don't see it anywhere else where you have elected officials timed to speak on an item. I mean, I think we should be prepared to speak and not repeat ourselves and go for maybe 10 minutes, but at the same time, not with that pressure that, oh my God, I have 10 seconds left, and then I have to ask permission because I maybe already asked 2 questions and I needed to ask maybe a third one.
Okay, so to clarify, we're talking about discussion items only, not limiting them. Mr. Lane, it looked like you wanted to say something.
I do. I agree with Ms. Savietto. This is the one place where we actually can bring ideas up to the board. Otherwise, we're just approving or disapproving of items that are brought to us. So we're just yes or no. This is where we actually add value, where we come up with our ideas and contributions. And I think it's a bad idea to limit that. We should have a free flow of ideas. If I or one of the other board members is coming up with an idea, they need to fully present that idea, and they shouldn't be time limited. Oh, I'm sorry, I have 4 minutes to do it. That's not appropriate. I think we need to have full and fulsome discussions And that's my thinking on that. I have a bunch of other items.
Well, we're going to get to everybody. We just want to wrap up this one item, and then I've got the list of all of you. So on the discussion items, I happen to agree. I think it's okay. I think as long as I'm able as chair, if we get to the point and I can say enough is enough, or if we're going around in circles, nobody's going to be offended by my, because I really do try to be respectful to all of you, just so you know. I try not, and I try to get real clarity for the benefit of the board clerk so that her records are right. But I agree with you, Ms. Savelletto, Mr. Lane. Is everybody okay with discussion items having more latitude for us? Ms. Branch?
As long as at your discretion, because other counties go on and on and on and on, and no conclusions ever come. So as long as the chair has the discretion to kind of sum things up, I'm okay with it.
Okay, and just as a reminder, at a discussion item, we're very limited in what we can do. We can't vote. We can only give direction to the superintendent to bring back a workshop or for staff to come back with more information. So at the end of the day, it's not a vote, but are you okay with that, Vice Chair Andrews?
Yes, I'm okay with it, but one piece that's not in the addendum that legal has put together here is if we're going to actually bring a discussion item up, and maybe this is already happening, that we have a conversation with the superintendent, because some of this that we may be bringing forth may have already been resolved and the work may already have been done, or the superintendent needs to have some time to do some research so that if we're here discussing and he hasn't really seen it because it was just put on right before and he hasn't had the time to do his investigations, he can't really help us when eventually we're going to have to refer back to him to take it back and maybe have a workshop or whatever. So I would think that before we put it on, this is us as the board members, that we have a discussion with the superintendent, because he may have some resolution and it may not even need to be a discussion item from our conversating with our lead administrator.
And that, I think, will fall to the board chair, whoever the board chair is at the time also, to refer back to the superintendent if superintendent isn't able to answer or needs to bring something back. So I think we can entrust whoever is sitting and running the meetings to make that decision if all of you are okay with that.
Madam Chair,
Mr. Ferguson, yes.
I requested to speak after Board Member Lane, but it doesn't seem to be recognized. Maybe my button's not working, but I definitely click request to speak. Okay. All right, no problem. I'd like to weigh in now. I didn't weigh in initially. Yeah, for the reasons that Board Member Savelletto and Lane said, but more importantly, just from a practical standpoint, you're begging for members to commit sunshine violations if you limit us to 3 minutes or 10 minutes. It's an insult to the democratic process to tell an elected official that he or she can only speak for a very limited period of time to his or her fellow board members. Secondly, I do differ to a small degree with what Board Member Andrews said in regard to needing to have the superintendent be prepared for a board discussion item. Practically speaking, we can put a board discussion item on as late as 5 p.m. the day before. Nobody in their right mind, I hope, would realistically expect the superintendent or his staff to be able to come up with any substantive information in such a short window of time. The way it's worked in my 3 years here is that if there is a consensus, which we now will soon codify, that is the 4 that has always been since I've been here, if we give direction to the superintendent that we would like to have a workshop, clearly him and his staff will be better prepared to interact with us, interface with us at the appropriate time. But again, as succinctly said by Board Member Savelletto and Lane, we are elected officials, and we need to have that opportunity to have this honest discussion with one another in the sunshine. None of us here are looking for any misdemeanors or other salaciousness to be attached to our names, because we're talking about things that our policies prohibit us from having a full and robust conversation. And I will say one last thing, too. So what that Miami-Dade does something? We're 67 counties in this state, and Miami-Dade does some things great, but I can't necessarily say they do everything better than us. And there are other counties that may do things the way we are. So honestly, the way this addendum was presented to me, I took exception to it, because last time I checked, at least in my 3 years here, I don't think anybody has had more board discussions than me, and only on rare occasions have I had more than 2. And just so you all know, I try to be very respectful of your time and not try to put 5 or 6 or whatever the case may be. So I think since we're talking about reasonableness of the chair, I think there should be some credit given to the other 6 as well, that we too are reasonable people and we know not to try to overextend as far as that goes. Although I do feel relevant to policy 103 and board discussion items, that of late, it seems that if we get to a certain time, persons aren't necessarily open to having the discussion, which is starting at that time through no fault of any respective board member. It's because we have persons who are making public comments and things of that nature. We don't very well start tapping our finger on our clock, say, hey, hurry up, buddy. The Miami Heat game starts in 30 minutes. We sign up for these jobs, and sometimes it may take a little bit longer. And I think so long as we are reasonable in our discussions and on our requests, I think things are fine. But as Board Member Savieto so succinctly said, we're not children, we're not in school. We're adults. And if we can't handle conducting business into later times of the night, then that might be something that we need to take into advisement in the privacy of our homes. But that's where I am on this, board members and Chair Brill, as far as that goes. So where do we go from here? It sounds like, well, we don't have a consensus expressly in terms of, yeah, we want to consider this board discussion addendum or not. 3 of us definitely said unequivocally that we don't support any sort of limit on board discussions, but I don't hear a consent one way or the other. So where are we with this?
So, Mr. Ferguson, it looks like what I'm seeing in people's noddings of their heads is that they were actually in agreement that we shouldn't have the limitation. I do know in the past, before you were on the board, there have been times when we had discussion items and we'd withdraw them and bring them back at a later meeting because we did have some meetings that went really late. I think the latest this board went was around 11. At night. We went later, Ms. Whitfield, yeah, probably during COVID we did. So we had those late meetings, but I think sometimes the mental capacity might also be gone after a long day of meetings. But I think the consensus, I'm seeing everybody saying, leave the discussion items alone. So that seems to be the consensus. So I don't know if we can go right on to the next item, if we're good. It would be Mr. Lane, you're next up to speak.
Sure. Okay, I'm looking at policy 1.03, Roman numeral 12. And I've already spoken to General Counsel about this. And I'm looking at this language here, just so we're on the same. Do you have it in front of you?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. Okay, it says, subject to relevancy and the other requirements and limitations set forth in this policy. Now, here's my issue with this, and I've already discussed it with General Counsel. First of all, it's redundant. It says subject to relevancy. Well, if you look at the previous sentence, it says all non-agenda speakers' public comments must
Point of
relate.
information, Madam Chair, can Board Member Lane direct us to where he, what?
Yeah, thank you.
where
That's
he-
what I
Sure,
was just
I'm
asking.
at
Thank
policy
you.
1.03, Roman numeral 12.
Roman numeral 12.
It's,
Where's that?
I just, what I Xerox, or
Yeah, just give
I
us a
printed
minute.
it out.
Can you give us a minute, Mr. Lane, to
Sure.
just find it? Okay.
Let me
Line
just see here.
301.
Roman numeral 5, you said?
It's line 285.
Okay. Line 285. Line 285 is the Roman, for me, is 12.
Let me just hold on.
Oh, okay. Okay, thank
Are
you.
you there?
Mr. Lane, we're good.
Line
find it?
302.
We're with
Okay,
you
are we all
now.
up to? Okay,
We're
good.
all with you.
Hey, you gotta love when lawyers are up here. Okay, I'm a couple lines down. I'm at subject to relevancy and other requirements and limitations set forth in this policy. So we already talked about relevancy in the first sentence. Additionally, we talk about limitations set forth in this policy. Once again, that's redundant. But I think it's a little bit confusing. When you're talking about subject to relevancy, the attorneys know what that means. It means all evidence having a tendency to make the existence of a fact as a consequence of the determination of the issue more probable or less probable. I don't think the public would know that. My thinking is that if we take out this language, which is redundant and confusing, we just leave the sentence, the board welcomes the opportunity to constructively engage with the community through public comments, including comments critical of the organization. It's cleaner, it's clearer, and I think it's better. Moving on, it says, "The board does not engage in viewpoint discrimination." Now, most people don't know what viewpoint discrimination is. I think that's somewhat confusing. I know what it is due to the fact I'm an attorney and I'm familiar with the case law. I think most people wouldn't. But more importantly, viewpoint discrimination is covered in the previous sentence, where it says, "The board welcomes the opportunity to constructively engage with the community through public comments, including comments critical of the organization." That's exactly saying we don't engage in viewpoint discrimination. So for those two reasons, I think that it'll be cleaner, it'll be clearer, it'll be easier to understand, it won't be duplicative, and I would strike the language that I just discussed. And that is, just so that there's, for the record, this is what I would like to take out. "Subject to relevancy and the other requirements and limitations set forth in this policy," I would take out that language. Additionally, I would take out, "The board does not engage in viewpoint discrimination," because just so it's very clear to everybody, when we say the board welcomes the opportunity to constructively engage with the community through public comments, including comments critical of the organizations, that exactly says the same thing. That's what it means. Thanks.
Excellent, thank you. Ms. Savallero, you're next.
No, I don't know, I didn't press, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
I didn't press the button.
Oh, okay. It looks like, Mr. Ferguson, did you want to speak again?
Yeah,
Okay,
something is
Ms.
happening.
Andrews? No? Ms. Branch didn't. Okay, so any more comments?
On that one, no.
Ms. Bernard?
I would just add, and I know Ms. Leiser has the sections up, Mr. Lane, so we did meet and we did discuss those. The only thing that I would just draw to your attention and perhaps the board's attention, and I believe it's with respect to the viewpoint discrimination point. One of the things that I shared with Mr. Lane is that is a legal term of art. You know, the benefit, well, there's two things that I wanted to draw to the board's attention. The benefit in having that language in is it signals to the court that, you know, this is something that we do not do. And then the other thing that Ms. Leiser and I discussed is because that language was already in the policy, the one concern of now crossing that out is, does that signal that the alternative, I guess, would be the only thing that I would bring forward for thought.
I'll accept that. And I'll withdraw my request on the viewpoint discrimination language.
And I'm sort of the opposite thought, thinking most people don't read our policies, if you want to know the truth. I mean, you know, it's very rare that the public would read a policy like this. I think it's for our own governance, this policy, more than anything else. So if you want to withdraw it, that's fine. If you don't want to withdraw it, I really don't think it's going to make or break anything going forward.
I assume that lawyers don't all just sit there and look at our policies, but I will, I'll take the recommendation of my general counsel and leave the language in. The specific language, the other language I would like to leave out, and I think we've agreed upon that.
Yes, sir.
Super.
So board members, does anybody else want to address anything else in this presentation and workshop? I'm sorry, did you say yes, Ms. Savallero? Okay, Ms. Savallero, you have the floor.
So now we can go to special rules of order, number 2.
Okay, where is that? You can direct us to either the line of the policy or...
I have it printed, but it's B, special rules of order.
Okay, B.
Am I in the right place? Because that's what I want to discuss.
Okay,
B2?
it's item 13? 513.
Yeah, I don't have it, hold on,
Okay.
hold on.
Okay, and just so you know, that's that
For it.
513 to 519, it has to be reworked. So for that particular paragraph, that's going to be redone because that doesn't take into account the devices that we have. So if it's anything just
So
in
I
that
think Ms.
section.
Savio's at 521.
Yeah,
Line
I'm in a
521.
printed version here, so
You're talking about 521, okay.
521.
Okay, now we're good. You have the floor.
Now I'm going to look for it. Yes, special rule of order 2, says board member having obtained the floor while a debatable motion is immediately pending can only speak twice to the motion for no longer than 3 minutes the first time and 3 minutes the second time unless additional time is obtained by consent. So this is not part of the Roberts rule. This is something that prior boards had voted on. And again, it goes back to limiting us with minutes and only 2 times that we can talk. So this is when I started talking earlier, but anyways. So I would like to suggest that we get rid of the 3 minutes so we can speak freely about whatever we need to, about the motion, and not more than, even if we need to speak more than twice. Again, you have, as a chair, the opportunity to chair the meeting, right? And we have the opportunity to speak freely to the motion and to each other. This is the only place when we get to talk. So feeling restricted, it doesn't do us any good or our constituents.
So does anybody, Mr. Ferguson, did you want to speak to that particular
do.
section? Okay.
He's right. I mean, we, at the last board meeting, they had a clock up here running at 3 minutes. I think I stopped talking about 1 minute in. The clock is still running as another board member or staff is talking. Then I proceed to talk again and the bell rings. It is undermining. And we shouldn't be on the clock for the reasons that Board Member Savieto said. Well stated, Board Member.
So I would just add that we've really never had a problem with it in all the years that we've been up here. So when when there's a motion on the floor, it's a business meeting. It's usually you can get it done in 3 minutes. We can extend it, but it would be up to what the board feels like. I mean, it's never been an issue for us where we've had to. We've had a few occasions in the past where I think we've asked for additional time. But it's really never come into play. Do any of you want to weigh in on their comments?
I'd just like to follow up briefly on that, though. The issue, though, would be the timekeeper then. So I'm going to repeat what I just said. Last board meeting, I spoke on an issue. I believe it was a matter that was before us on a motion for about a minute. I wasn't cognizant of the fact that the timekeeper didn't stop. I don't know, maybe he thinks once I started talking, I never stopped, but he still won't give me my subtitles, but that's okay. So I stopped talking about a minute in, and then we were having a dialogue, and then because I was asking for clarification, and then I started speaking again, and like 30 seconds into me kind of continuing to speak, the bell went off, and you had to say, no, we'll give him additional time. I don't know how it was before I got here, but so I can only speak from my point of view. I don't see how that 3 minutes really helps anything. In fact, I feel like it constricts us really getting to the root of the matter in as few meetings as possible. Nobody wants to keep kind of going over an issue 3, 4, 5 meetings. And to that point, and I think Board Member Branch even echoed the sentiments as well, you as a chair have the ultimate authority to tell us, okay, board members, I think this is going far enough. And even as stated in this, I believe the addendum, person can always move the call to a vote. And if it's seconded, and I believe we need, 2/3 of us to support that, we can call it to a vote. So we can all read the room, and I don't think we need these type of guardrails. And again, at least I'll speak for myself, I find it to be undermining, because I've been to many other city board meetings, state board meetings, and county board meetings, and nobody's around here with a time clock for the elected official at the elected officials meeting saying, ding, that's enough, buddy. I just don't think that's the intent. I don't think that's the intent of being an elected official and trying to get to the heart of these issues that our constituents are bringing to us throughout this county.
So other board members, do you want to weigh in at all? Does anybody want to weigh in on that? Because we've got to get some direction to give to general counsel, so, we can govern ourselves accordingly, very clearly. Mr. Lane, you look like you would like to say something.
You're good down there. way down there. I agree with board members Ferguson and Savieto. I think that we need to fully discuss issues. And I think that if we go long, we need to have a provision where we drop through the floor and then just keep the member who keeps going. And then everybody else just keeps going and goes. Also, another point to Mr. Ferguson's point about the Miami Heat. Unless they get a new center, I don't see anybody rushing home to watch the game.
Thank you. So, Ms. Whitfield?
Oh, thank you. I just wanted to say, I think this is fine. I do remember adding this, so I know it happened during my time. So I know there was something, and I can't think of what the thing was that made this come to be, but I think we can definitely pass this power on to the board chair to, continue to make sure that we're all staying on topic and on point and on time. So thank you.
And so just as a reminder, before I call on Vice Chair Andrews, nothing is carved in stone. So if we see a policy is not working, let's make this change. I agree, Mr. Ferguson. I thought that clock, I think they were trying to help us and keep following what the existing policy was, but it just became a cumbersome mess, which is, and you're right. I kept saying, please let him finish, so, don't turn off the microphone. So again, it's not carved in stone. We can massage this anytime we need to. Vice Chair Andrews?
And I think the chair has that responsibility to keep us in order as it relates to the time. So, we're saying 3 minutes for a lot of things. Even with our board comments, everybody's rushing to finish because we have 3 minutes. So if we're going to leave it to the board chair to help us through, because sometimes you have some things that truly need to be said. It may take a minute more. So I think as we look at this timeline on all of it, I think it goes back to the chair and working through this with all of us. If you feel that we've got, abused it, and I don't think people are trying to abuse it, they're trying to be able to make the statements that need to be made.
So with all due respect, I do want to just pick up on one thing you said when you talked about board comments. I think we do need to keep those limited because these are our business meetings. When we start our business meetings, when you think about it, if each one of us uses those 4 minutes, we're 28 minutes in, and we're dealing, especially at night, with staff that's been here since early in the morning. So I think on our business meetings, when we especially, let's keep those board comments shorter, but certainly we can allow the flexibility in the other portions of the meeting. And I certainly, want to hear everybody's thoughts. Ms. Branch, did you want to say
I
something?
agree with that 100%.
Okay, Ms. Savalletto?
Yeah, I did not touch the 4-minute comment. I practice. I laugh about it because I make it every time. Nobody's going to turn off my microphone. And if I write 633 words, I do it in 3 minutes and 58 seconds. So I'm fine. I spend a lot of time. That's not a problem, but I do have a problem with talking and getting limited in between. Again, I feel bad for the staff who's been here all day. But again, we were voted, and if the meetings are at night, not in the mornings like in some other cities or county, it is what it is, right? I mean, our constituents voted for us to be here and to do business, regardless if it goes 2 hours, 8 hours. We can't sit here looking at the clock and going, oh my God, I need to go home. This is our job. The other stuff that we do, shaking hands and visiting schools, that's the rewarding, fun part. This part, it may be not as fun sometimes, right? So this is our job right here, whether the staff likes it or not and we go long. Hopefully we're not going to go long all the time, maybe once a year. But I truly believe that we can't sit here looking at our watches and going, okay, it's time to go home and it's 5:05, right? I mean, so it is what it is. They know, they've been here for a long time, so staff knows how it works. And I haven't asked to talk more than 4 minutes at my board comments, but I do believe that when we need to discuss things, we cannot, because that's why I brought it up. You said in the past, well, since I've been here, it's been an issue because it's like when Mr. Ferguson speaks and I thought you would turn off the microphone. So you don't turn off the microphones?
Oh, I have
Who
no
turns
control.
off the microphones?
I have no control over it.
So I
blame
see you
me.
people over there in that box over there. So, but if they turn off the microphone and then you're like, okay, and it disrupts the flow. And then I'm thinking, okay, what is he saying? What? And turn on the mic. It's horrible. So, I mean, that part is what I want to be smooth. I'll keep my 4-minute comment and I'll keep typing 633 words and I'll make it in less than 4 minutes. But when it comes to real business, it needs to be free flow and with you in charge. Thank
Okay.
you.
So with full disclosure, I don't control the clock and I don't control the microphone. So Vice Chair Andrews?
And I can go with the 4 minutes, but I think it's disrespectful for the clock to be turned off if you just go over the 4 minutes by something. And we are the board members, and so I think that's not nice to turn the clock off. I don't think anybody would be trying to abuse the 4 minutes. If you go over, you just go over. But you understand that we're trying to stick it to 4 minutes. But when you turn the clock off, people that's out in the audience in TV land, it doesn't look good. It's disrespectful.
So I think the clock, when we do our 4 minutes, though, the public doesn't see that. So yeah, I think it's really just to guide us in our comments. The public doesn't see that clock.
I think people in here.
I don't know that they see I think it's just on the front to us.
I
for
don't
that
know. I
clock.
just think we just need to make sure it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody needs to see it.
And I think what we can do is have the clock up and not shut the mic. And then if I need to stop you, just don't attack me in the parking lot, because if you're going to put this all on me as board chair, you got to know that, I don't have a gavel, I don't have a whip, but but I'm from New York and I'll fight back. All right. So I think we have consensus, General Counsel, that we're going to remove those minutes on those items, remove the number of times. I will make every effort, and whoever sits in here in this seat going forward will hopefully be able to keep control. Let's try it, let's do it. But I do agree with you, Ms. Savalleto, that we do need to have the opportunity to express what we want to express. So I don't see any more comments. Ms. Savalleto, keep going.
But wait, there's more. So I really like to add, or I don't know if this is directed to you, Chair Brill, but when we as board members pick a proclamation to read it, not always happens, but sometimes we do pick one because it's probably special to us. I would like the privilege to say a few words right then and there, 1 minute, maximum. It doesn't have to be much, but I don't want to do that later on or before in my comments. That doesn't make any sense, because if I'm talking about drowning prevention, and that's very meaningful, it needs to be addressed there. And also, I think the proclamations, I don't know if it goes in this space, but it needs to come before in our agenda, because we're always pulling and putting it in front. So might as well have it always up front, because we have kids, we have students, we have parents, we have people from the community. It's not fair that they wait until 8 o'clock if they're here for a proclamation. So they should be always moved to the front. And I'm not, again, I don't know if it goes in this comment right now, but I do want to make sure that we're not so rigid, and we're not reading every proclamation, but when we read one, I think we should say why we're even reading it, right? Because we're not just reading it because.
So just historically, so you know, the moving of the proclamation came out of a workshop that we had as a board, I think we had one of our off-site sessions where one of our board members said that we had gotten to the point where our business meetings weren't starting. So what we need to do, and I've spoken to General Counsel about this, our policy gives us the ability also to move the presentations or move the proclamations to the afternoon, the 2 o'clock meetings, the special meetings, and we could move it up. As far as making comments, we still take a motion. So there's a motion, there's a second. You do have an opportunity to speak. So you could speak a little, we've been reading the proclamation before we do the motion and second, and then I think the last one, we moved up the motion and second. So we could take the motion and second before you read it, and then have the opportunity to talk about it. So that's something that you could do, but we are going to move them. We can't have them where, I think in the afternoon meetings, it's where we had them before in the special meetings. It makes a lot more sense.
I was just suggesting to move them right at 5 o'clock, when we start
Right,
the meetings, 5 o'clock,
well,
not 2 o'clock. You said
Well,
2
no,
o'clock?
we talked about taking it off the 5 o'clock meetings also, which is the general business meeting.
Sometimes we have these agencies that come, right?
They can come just like at the county. They come during the day, It's just a matter of retraining the public that we're doing it, because the proclamations and agencies, that's during their business day, so they should be fine in the afternoons, just like the county does it in the morning and in the afternoon. So it's just a matter of retraining people's thought process. But, we agree, you should be able to say something. And if we do it then you're going to have the opportunity to be able to, right, to say what you want to say.
To say something, I have to ask for a motion?
No.
Didn't you say
No.
that?
We take a motion, there's always a motion and a second, and then we say any discussion before you read it, and then you can discuss and then read it. So no,
I
you
can
don't
say a
have.
few words and then read the proclamation.
No, there's no permission. I mean, we're all the same. You don't have to ask me. Okay, Ms. Whitfield.
Thank you. So I agree with you on the ability to be able to say something. I always just say stuff, and nobody's said anything to me, so I just kept going. So whenever I have a proclamation that means something to me, I think you should be able to speak to that. The only concern I have with moving proclamations, I think proclamations would probably be okay, but I do worry about, when we have kids and when we have people that are teachers that would like to come to our meetings. I don't want to make it so they can't get here. So proclamations, I think, it's usually an outside business, but presentations and all those things.
That's staying in the evening meeting. And then what we want to do is anytime there's students here, obviously, if we have to reorder something, we'll do that out of respect for them because they have a school day. So no, presentations would still be so that, that everybody can engage with us, and we have teachers, we have students, things of that nature. So that would not change. Anybody else? I think we're done with this workshop. Okay, so I'll take a motion to adjourn. Oh, I'm sorry, Ms. Bernard?
Yes, if the board chair and board would indulge me, if it would be all right for Ms. Lizer to just go through so that we can talk about what's been decided here today. I think that may be a helpful exercise for both she and I, as well as the board, because there's been a few items that additionally are now going to be struck through, and I just want to make sure that we've captured what appears to be the will of the board on this.
So do you want to run through them, or do you want me to? Okay.
Oh,
okay.
if you
Well, that's
got it
fine.
all.
You can run through
But I
them.
think she's
Yes,
been
ma'am.
capturing it all, so.
Yes, so with regard to the proposed amendments that were proposed by the Office of General Counsel, I believe the consensus was that we would move forward with those, with the caveat that Mr. Lane's suggestion of striking that redundancy in the language be removed. Aside from that, the discussion items, the conversation, the consensus was that there would not be a time limit imposed on the discussion items. We would continue to have an open discussion about those to avoid the sunshine violations, that the three-minute time period on motions and debate on the floor would be removed, that we would be passing that power to the chair to ensure that the board stays in line with the parameters of the meeting, that the time limit would remain for the introductory comments by the board of 4 minutes, but that there would not be, the mic would not cut out, but that timer would remain for the board to be able to see that, so that you can try to restrict your comments to the time frame. That at the point of proclamations, that those would be, proclamations would be moved to the 2 o'clock special meeting agendas, that the board can make comments on the special meeting at the time of the motion and second, before the proclamation is read into the record, that the special presentations, however, would be remaining on the agenda for regular meetings, which does not begin until 5 p.m., and that if there were students who were present and there needed to be a reorganization or reordering of the agenda, that can be addressed at the start of the meeting to ensure that the students can be brought forward sooner rather than later.
Me too. So I actually have my little ones. You also have to note that line 272 or 273, we're going to take out about the limit of 400 words for something
Yes.
that's written to us. And then under the special rules of order, lines 515 to 519 will be worked through
Yes.
the general counsel just to reflect how we tell each other that we want to speak. And now I'm going to turn to Vice Chair Andrews.
And we didn't discuss this one, but maybe we're all set on it, that each board member may bring forward a maximum of 2 discussion items per regular meeting. Did we say that was okay?
We said that we've eliminated that, Ms.
she didn't
Ms.
say it,
Andrews,
so
yeah.
I don't believe there was a consensus of the board
Oh, okay.
for that.
Okay, so board members, are you okay if people can put up as many discussion items as they wish? It falls again to the powers of any elected official, so.
Okay, I just
Okay.
didn't hear it in your.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
So Ms. Bernard?
I had one question that I think kind of came up through you all's discussion, and Mr. Ferguson actually pointed this out, and it was provided to you all in the addendum. And what I don't know is if the board will find it helpful, and it's a Roberts rule, and it's in Addendum C, it's number 12, which talks about a board member may move to call the question. I don't know if that would aid the board. I know Mr. Ferguson brought it up and mentioned the addendum, and so I just wanted to throw that out there to the board. Is that something that the board was interested in adding to the policy? And I couldn't tell from your reference, Mr. Ferguson, if you were interested in adding that, or if it is Robert's rules, if you just leave that for what it is, and to the memories of the board to know that that is a tool that you all have as board members to utilize.
Mr. Ferguson?
Yeah, I was really just saying it as a matter of fact. I thought we already were following, at least loosely, Robert's Rules of Order, and I thought that was what would be done, although, to be fair, I didn't realize the 2/3. I just still thought it was a majority vote. But if that's the rule, Madam Chair, I'd like to ask a question to the General Counsel in regard to that really quickly, because I thought we were wrapping up. Our policies, I thought our policies specifically state that we don't follow Robert rules, my words, not the policies, to the T. Am I correct there?
That is correct. And so that's why it's sometimes adds more clarity when you as a board decide you want to follow Robert's rules, or otherwise it leaves it, which is as is, kind of loosely.
So as Sergeant of Arms, if I were to make a motion, moving to call the question, let's say Board Member Lane seconds me, then all in favor, then we would just need a majority, 4 of the 7, correct?
Well, Robert's rules would require a 2/3.
But we don't follow Robert's rules, though.
Unless you so that's the thing. If there's going to be a deviation from Robert's rules, I need to put that in the policy.
Okay, I'm sorry. So
Okay.
we do follow Robert's rules as a matter of course, or we do not as a matter of course?
So we follow Robert's rules except in those cases where the board has presented a carve-out to Robert's rules.
So in that regard, I guess this is what the point you were making, we don't really need to have this expressly stated, that if I were to make a motion to call the vote, and I'm just using Board Member Lanes because he's top of mind, and he seconds it, we would need 2/3 of the total board to vote in favor of any discussion and calling the vote.
Correct.
But
But
we
if it sounded like you thought it was a majority, so if there is to be any deviation from that, then we would need to include that.
I'm fine with the 2/3, I mean, in that regard, but again, I didn't think we were following Robert rules, and I thought we just did everything by a majority vote. So if it's 2/3, it's 2/3. If it's a majority, it's not gonna sink my ship, but yeah, special meeting time.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, then I'm going to take
One other thing, I'm sorry, that I wanted to just, because I knew that this was something that the board has struggled with in the past, and that's the consensus voting. And so I throw that out to the board. There is an example that would add some clarity to the policy, because I think right now, whenever the board is reaching a consensus, it's by the nodding of the head and that sort of thing. And so one of the suggestions suggestions that I would throw out to the board for your consideration is there, if you want to clean that up, we have some language in here that would allow you all to take a vote for that limited purpose, to avoid that sort of nodding of the head and then, of course, causing the chair to have to kind of figure out what it is that you're doing.
I thought that was a good idea when I suggested it.
That's fine. When you bring it back to us, just, I would say, bring it back and we can massage it further.
Great.
But these are all good suggestions, and I think we've made a lot of progress on this. Okay, so now I'm going to take a motion to adjourn the workshop. Motion by Ms. Whitfield, second by Ms. Branch. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, all opposed, motion carries unanimously. I'm going to put us right into the special meeting since we have another meeting coming up. So I'm now going to call the special meeting to order at 4:28 p.m. The record should reflect that we have a quorum with 7 board members present. Okay, we don't have any minutes to approve, and I don't have any items to add for good cause. Mr. Superintendent, do you have any items to withdraw?
No, Madam Chair.
Okay, board members, we have one item pulled from consent, COS1. Is there anybody else wanting to pull something? Okay, seeing none, I'll take a motion to approve the agenda. Motion by Ms. Branch, second by Vice Chair Andrews. Any discussion? All in favor, all opposed, motion carries unanimously. Are there any disclosures and abstentions? Okay, seeing none, that brings us to superintendent and board comments. Mr. Superintendent.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Just 2 comments. We are just 12 days away from the start of a new school year, so we look forward to welcoming back about 170,000 students to our A-rated district on August 11th. And next Monday, August 4th, we get to welcome back our nearly 13,000 teachers for the preschool week as we get prepared. So we're excited about the new school year, and the team's been working hard all summer to get ready. My other just announcement is for our parents out there that are getting ready to do their back-to-school shopping. Just a reminder that the state will begin their tax-free shopping on Friday, August 1st through Sunday, August 31st. So the whole month of August is now tax-free shopping on back-to-school supplies, and that's a permanent reduction after the legislative session. And if they have any questions as far as what to check on, what's exempt from the tax and what's not, they can go to the floridarevenue.com back-to-school website. And that concludes my comments.
Thank you. And so I apologize. I went so quickly that I forgot that I have an item that I need to pull. So just give me 1 minute, please, because I'm not getting back to where I need to be. It's P1, actually it's P2, the job descriptions. I want to pull the job descriptions, but I'm going to, should I make the motion now to split it? Okay, so I'm just, I'm pulling P2 for the job descriptions. So that's my motion, my item to pull. Okay, and so now we need to revote the agenda. Vote motion by Ms. Whitfield, second by Mr. Lane. Any discussion? All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. So now we're going to go to our board comments. Ms. Andrews, you're up first. And
Thank you.
Please refresh your screens as she speaks.
Thank you, and we're off to getting started with school, and we're working hard to make sure that all of our students have their supplies. And so we had the 2025 Palm Beach County Back to School Bash at the Palm Beach State College Belgrade campus on Saturday, and I hope I can see some pictures. I don't know if they're there. They should be there. Many students and families attended the session, the bash. Backpacks were given, school supplies, all kinds of great things were given. Food, prizes, just getting everybody ready for getting back to school. And as you can see, there we are out there with bicycles, Palm Beach State College. There was a young man who had a hamburger and his laptop. And he did not let go of his hamburger, but he was happy that, there he is, and he was happy to get his laptop. So it was great. Thank you, Palm Beach State College. Thank you for the county for making it happen every year for our students. And lastly, I want to say the Florida Department of Education recipient of the 2025 Educator Legacy Award was given to our own Teacher of the Year, Kimberly Stalker from Polo Park Middle School. This award is presented to a district teacher of the year who instills passion for learning in their students each and every day in the classroom. And this is our Teacher of the Year in Tallahassee getting this Educator Legacy Award, Kimberly Stalker. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Ferguson?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I have a couple of comments. Firstly, our first Project Uplift event of the year was a huge success. We had 24 students. They earned 72 hours in community service hours last Saturday, and we were able to remove 219 pounds of trash from the streets of West Palm Beach. So we have really big goals for this year. So our target for trash removal is 1 ton, 2,000 pounds, and our target for community service hours is 1,000. So we're going to hold between 9 and 10 of these events over the course of this year, and we're off to a really good start. I would be remiss not to recognize Palm Beach Central. The Broncos generally show up in really large numbers to these events, and I want to also especially thank Miss Samantha Butler. She's an AP at Palm Beach Central, and she does a really good job of corralling, pun intended, the Broncos to get them to show up to the event. That was good. I was like, to make like a branch and leave type thing. So we'll be back at New Bethel next month. We should have the flyer posted as well, whenever it comes up. So it'll be the 4th Saturday in August. We'll be right back at New Bethel. If you're interested, please come out. It's always a great time. It's an opportunity for mentorship, meeting other like-minded students who are trying to elevate themselves, and it's a layup in terms of getting community service hours, because we all know that that's a mandate for all of our students here in Palm Beach County. Also, there's going to be a basketball camp on August 2nd over at the Wellington Village Park. One of the parents who was there wanted me to make this announcement, so I'm just being obedient to my teammates in that regard, but it's on August 2nd. It's going to run from 12:30 p.m. until 3:30 p.m. When she sent me the flyer earlier this week on Monday, she represented to me that there are still some openings there. So if you're an aspiring basketball player and you want to go out and improve your craft, please consider registering for this basketball camp that's being held out at the Wellington Village Park on August 2nd. With the remainder of my time, I want to speak to an issue that is getting a lot of traction in the news and is particularly sensitive to me. As a black male, there's this gentleman named William McNeil Jr., who was involved in an incident up in Jacksonville, Duval County. And I'm sensitive to it because, similar to what happened in 2015 to Corey Jones and Dontrell Stevens in 2012, it involves a negative interaction with law enforcement. So on the heels of Mr. McNeil, I'm hearing a lot of chatter over the social media outlets primarily that person should ask for a supervisor when they get pulled over. I strongly encourage you not to do that, because there is no legal right to have a supervisor, say chief, to come to a scene. That's not how this works. There are 3 things that I would recommend anybody do, well, really 4, if they're stopped by law enforcement. Always be respectful. As stressful as it may be, the officer very well may be wrong. The officer involved in the McNeil case clearly was wrong. He's already been suspended and hopefully terminated here. Stay calm, as challenging as it may be, but definitely say nothing. You have a right to remain silent for a reason. Anything that you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. Now, if you happen to be under the age of 18, there's a 4th thing that I really encourage you to do, which is to ask for your parents to be contacted. Your parents should be on scene at any time. If there's going to be any sort of interrogation, conversation, whatever adjective the officer wants to use, an adult needs to be in the room. So students, if you're out and about, be respectful, stay calm, say nothing beyond, I'd like you to contact my parent. And 5th, cameras are so cheap these days. Parents, I really would encourage you to make sure that all your children have their own little body-worn camera or dash cam affixed to their car. Because even in this situation in Jacksonville, the officers, the information that was presented by them doesn't seem to kind of show the whole story. And a lot of times, it's that extra little bit of information that can be the difference between you being convicted of a misdemeanor or a felony, or it can be the be-all, end-all. So please consider that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ferguson. Ms. Branch?
I hope everyone's been enjoying their summer, and I hope they enjoy the last few days before school starts. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Whitfield? Ms. Savalletto?
You know it. So I've been part of a Back to School Palm Beach County event for years, bringing together thousands of families and volunteers across Palm Beach County, but this year felt even more meaningful as I also represented School Board District 2. Throughout the day, I helped to connect families and vital services supporting the amazing team from Head Start as we spoke with parents of young children about childcare options and early learning support. I focused on assisting Spanish-speaking families, taking the time to explain all the incredible programs available to help their little ones enter kindergarten ready to thrive. As someone deeply committed to family engagement and student success, I would have loved to see our school district present, especially departments like multicultural education and our Welcome Center, which play a vital role in connecting with diverse families across our county. This is exactly the kind of event where our district's presence would have made a big difference, something to consider for next year. Over 5,000 students received backpacks, school supplies, haircuts, health screening, and so much more, all under one roof at the convention center. There was music from DJ Carlos, bounce houses, face painting, free food, and raffles. There were two mascots, Buddy from Drowning Prevention Coalition and Oakley from Palm Beach County Parks and Recreation. Minnie and Mickey Mouse were also there, adding a touch of magic to the day. It was fun and it was very organized. Special thank you to Carlos Maecha from CBS 12 en Español for covering the event. Carlos is not only a trusted journalist, but also a friend and a consistent supporter of the community. And of course, thank you to the incredible team of the Palm Beach County Office of Community Revitalization, including Houston Tate, Ruth Mogijansky, and Crystal Matthews, and everyone who made this event possible, from county departments to so many community agencies and volunteers. It was a true team effort. We're stronger when we work together, and this event proves it every year. Stuff the bus. So join me on August 7th to support the EDGE Foundation and help us stuff the bus for our students. We'll be collecting school supplies at Office Depot on Okeechobee Boulevard in West Palm Beach. Every notebook, pencil, and backpack donated makes a difference. If you can make it that day, no problem. You can send them the donations, and trust me, James Gabrilos is not shy about taking your money. He happily took my check last year. Let's come together to support our students and public education. And before I close, I want to take a moment to correct myself from the last meeting. I left a few of my schools when celebrating the academic progress in District 2, and they absolutely deserve to be recognized. I am proud of every single one of my schools, no matter the grade, because progress matters, and they're moving in the right direction. We celebrate the schools that improved, and just as importantly, the ones that maintained their grade, because holding that level of achievement takes just as much effort and commitment as getting there. That said, I want to give a special shout out to the schools in my district that earned an A and B grades. A-rated schools, we have Pine Jog, which jumped from C to A, amazing, go Owls, Meadow Park and Green Acres Elementaries. B-rated schools, I have Palmetto and Forest Hill Elementaries, Palm Springs Middle, which was less than 3% from earning an A, Go Stingrays, and Okeechobee Middle, Forest Hill, and John I. Lerner High School. This is what it looks like when we work together, schools, families, teachers, and community partners all pulling in the same direction. Let's keep going. Gracias, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Lane?
I hope that everyone had some time off this summer to refresh and get ready for the new school year. We were in Boston last week and had dinner with our good friends Mez and Gloria. And on Monday night at dinner, I had the opportunity to tell them that I have the privilege of working with the most wonderful, kind, thoughtful, caring, dedicated people that I've ever known. On Tuesday night, I talked about it at dinner. On Wednesday night, I talked about it at dinner. So on Thursday, when we received a call from our friends, I believe my wife, Susan, thought that they were calling to wish us a safe trip home. I thought they were calling to make sure we were leaving. Now that summer vacation's over, there's a lot coming up. Tomorrow is the Palm Beach North Chamber of Commerce Principals Breakfast, our new teacher orientation. Our teachers come back to school next week, so I'm sure there are a lot of breakfasts that we're all attending. We have the Chamber of Commerce of the Palm Beach's annual back-to-school meeting next Wednesday morning. And finally, as you all know, I too love to talk about the Education Foundation, and to remind everybody that this Thursday, August 7th, the Education Foundation is holding their Stuff the Bus Now, it's at the Office Depot on Okeechobee Boulevard. I want everyone to bring their school supplies and ask your friends to do so as well. This year, the Education Foundation will be distributing 30,000 backpacks full of school supplies for needy children at 50 schools. 30,000 backpacks, which is a remarkable achievement. And with that being said, that concludes my remarks.
Thank you very much. So now that's going to bring us to agenda topic speakers, and we don't have any. So that brings us to the consent agenda. I'll now take a motion to approve. Motion by Ms. Branch, second by Ms. Whitfield. Any discussion? All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. That will now bring us, Mr. Superintendent, to new business.
Yes. So CSO 1, I recommend the board approve the third amendment to the contract between the School Board of Palm Beach County, Florida and Rita Solnit, and authorize the superintendent and board chair to finalize and sign all necessary documents.
Motion by Vice Chair Andrews, second by Ms. Savalletto. I believe this was pulled by Ms. Branch.
Thank you. I appreciate you adding the evaluation instrument, but for all the fiscal reasons I discussed at the June 4th board meeting, I cannot vote for this contract as this added expense given our tight budget times. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion? All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries 6-1 with Ms. Branch voting against. Okay, that will now bring us to P2.
P2, I recommend the school board approve the job descriptions as submitted.
Okay, I'm going to turn the gavel over now to the vice chair. We need a motion.
Do we have a second? Okay.
Okay.
Any discussion?
So yes, right. Do you have that? Okay. Okay, so I pulled that item, and what I would like to do is first put a motion on the floor to separate the job descriptions, to pull out job description B, liaison program services, so that we vote for that job description separately. So that's the motion on the floor.
All right. There is a motion on the floor to divide and separate the question. Do we have a second? Any discussion? Ms. Ferguson.
Yeah, I think Board Member Branch already seconded the motion, but Madam Vice Chair or Madam Chair, to Board Member Brill, why would you like us to vote separately on the issue of the lead?
Because I'm going to explain why I'm going to vote against one of the job descriptions, and if I vote against the whole item, I'm voting against all three.
Got it. Okay.
Okay, who made the second?
Board Member Branch did, I thought. Yeah.
Gloria did, Mrs. Branch.
Okay, so the motion's
More
on the floor.
discussion?
So,
Okay, so it has been moved and properly second. All in favor? Any opposes? The ayes have it. The motion is carried, and it is approved.
yeah, okay, so do you want to?
Let's take up the separate item.
Okay, so we're going to vote on the first one,
Okay,
the two together.
where is it? All right. All right, we do have a motion to approve the job description at this point in time. Do we have a second?
So this is for approving A and C, correct?
It's not listed here.
This is, if I may assist, we're going to start with the second item, which is Mrs. Brill's item. And so is there a motion on the floor for that?
You're talking about for liaison, then?
The
We're going to start with
liaison,
B.
because
Okay.
currently, board, we only have a motion to divide the question. So in order to address Mrs. Brill's item, we'll need a motion from Ms. Brill to either, whatever your motion will be, but you'll need to state your motion, Ms. Brill.
Okay.
Can you
So-
state your motion,
Yes,
Mrs.
so
Brill?
so my motion is going to be to not support job description B, liaison program services.
Do we have a second? Discussion?
Okay, so here's my discussion on that. So the second was Mr. Lane. Okay. So the reason that I am against this is this particular job description had previously been a part-time job, And as a part-time job, it required a high school diploma or equivalent and an associate's degree with coursework or experience in social work or human services, or a bachelor would be preferred. It's now, instead of being part-time, it's now a full-time job. So what we're doing is we're making it into a full-time job, and we're taking out the requirement for an associate's degree and only requiring our high school diploma. And the rationale for doing that was that, in part, that several of the principals had wanted school staff who had worked in positions such as paras, office assistants, were not able to move into that job because of the associate's degree requirement. My suggestion is we have other avenues to get an associate's degree, that we should support those employees. But when you read the requirements of the position, for example, broad knowledge of applicable federal and state regulations regarding child care, also being able to ensure compliance with federal and state regulations. There's a list of requirements that, to me, I don't feel are appropriately met. We're an educational institution by someone that only holds a high school diploma. The other concern that was raised is that the starting salary is only $44,666, but the upper range of that job is over $90,000. So my thought is, if we're having trouble hiring people, first of all, let's lead these employees to a way to help them with the programs we have to get an associate's degree. And also, if the $44,000 is too low, we have a range up to over $90,000, raise the starting salary. But certainly, we shouldn't be removing the requirement of an associate's degree. Is not that high level. I just feel that we've made it go from a part-time job to a full-time job, which is more requirements, and we're removing the educational requirement, and we are an educational institution. So for that reason, I was going to vote against it.
Any other discussion, Mr. Ferguson?
I support the upgraded position, if you will. Policemen don't need to have AA degrees, and they are expected as law enforcement officers to have understandings of, let me find that language. I don't know about broad, but they definitely need to have a knowledge of definitely state and in some instances federal laws. And you can become more equipped as you have more time on the job. I suspect that someone with a high school diploma or a GED is most definitely being hired at the 44,666. And then if we're somebody like me, I see Mr. Kruger already nodding in the affirmative, I'm probably coming somewhere close to the higher end of the 90,000. Well, maybe not. But either way, you're not going to start me at 44, I hope. That's a non-starter, sir.
The only way to move up through the range when you're coming in, when you're hired, is to have experience that is aligned with the responsibilities of this job. So it has to be similar experience.
Or actual work experience. You
Yes.
got to be, okay. But either way, I don't necessarily, it doesn't bristle my, make me ruffle my feathers. Thank you. I wasn't saying a joke. The words weren't coming as readily as I would have hoped. But in any event, but Chair Brill, you did say something interesting. I thought I heard you say that this is at the request of the principals. So they are kind of our lead representatives at these schools. So if they feel that there's a need for this, from my standpoint, I don't feel comfortable going against the grain with them in that regard. So I do support it, and hopefully some of these persons will ultimately flower into teachers or whatever. But I'm good with this. I'm comfortable with this. I'm going to vote in favor of it. Thank you.
We have.
I needed to revise the way I had said that I was against it was actually what I'm asking is that we put the associate's degree requirement back in. So not voting against the whole job description, I misworded that also. The words didn't come to me. But I'm just saying leave the requirements of the position the way they were when it was a part-time job. And then if you can't hire someone that way, then just raise, we can have a method to help them meet the requirements, but don't change the requirements because people, just because you have an employee that you want to put in a position.
So can we just have you clarify just what you're asking for us to vote on?
Asking that the line that's stricken in the job description, which is the removal of the associate's degree with coursework or experience, blah, 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 just put that back in. So the job description would remain the way it currently is.
General Counsel?
So, just so that Board Chair Brill understands, I think that by your motion to vote it down essentially does that, okay? So you don't have to get into the specifics of the policy. The current job description does not have that in there. So if I understand what you're attempting to do, Ms. Brill, I think the motion on the floor is proper, that it's a motion to deny the job description as being proposed by the superintendent.
Superintendent Burke?
Yeah, just a couple points to consider. And this is something I don't make a practice of trying to like water down the requirements of our job descriptions. But in this case, we are trying to be responsive to the concerns of our principals and also the Director of Extended Learning, Ms. Howell. Last year, we went without coverage for some of these positions, you know, whether part-time or full-time. We were not able to fill jobs, which then, you know, has a negative impact on our ability to serve our students. So both Ms. Howell and the principals felt like if we could remove the AA degree requirement, that they felt like there were qualified candidates currently on our school campuses that could step into these roles. And then the second thing on the salary range, and Mr. Kubrick really addressed it with his conversation there with Mr. Ferguson, but we start people at the beginning of the salary range. The only way to advance on that is through experience in the job. So we don't really have a lot of latitude with just saying, you know, get the degree and we'll pay you $60,000. If we were going to change the salary level, we'd have to bring you another recommendation, which would make this at a higher salary level, and then that creates other issues as we try to maintain internal equity and parity within our different positions. So that's why we brought it forward for the board's consideration.
Ms. Branch?
Thank you. I understand what Board Member Ferguson's saying, the principals need these positions. Is there any way you could have like full-time and part-time positions, and maybe the people that don't have an AA degree, they can take a training course or be trained over time? Because I don't want to leave the principals, you know, out there hanging dry without positions being able to be filled because they don't have an AA degree. So is there any training they could do, or?
Let me ask, I'm going to ask our Chief Academic Officer, Ms. Bishop, to help me with that question. Is that a possibility as far as a hybrid approach?
Well, the state, it's the 21st Century Grant, they're the ones who made this change a couple years ago, where they eliminated the part-time position, which our teachers used to fulfill that position, to now making it full-time. So at this point, we cannot do that.
So is there any way to train people that don't have an AA degree? Because
Right. I mean, there is training available within the role. Ms. Howell and her department will provide that.
I mean, it's obviously if they're able to get someone with an AA degree, and they can't, but someone's at the school that they know are capable and can be trained, I want them to have the opportunity, and I don't want them to be, you know, looked over because they don't have an AA degree.
Right. And then Ms. Howell does oversee the programs and
Okay.
would support the people as
Okay.
well.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Savigato?
Yes, I agree with Chair Brill. I think we're in the education business. But is there a way, because I know that some jobs say, well, you need a bachelor's or 5 years of experience, and a master's degree or 10 years of experience. You see, it's not one or the other, it's both or combined, because I know that some of our staff, I've been here 20 years doing an amazing job, and maybe they don't even have an AA, but they have the knowledge, and that's wonderful. That weighs more than an AA in practice. So can we do that? I mean, I would feel very comfortable if we say one or the other, you know, like the experience or the title. But I definitely want the title there because we need to push our people to, you know, to get more training. Even if they don't have it, they step into this role and then they go into more training later on. They already have the experience. Maybe they've been doing it or not doing it, but I believe that you bring a good point, Chair Brill, about the education piece.
Any more discussion? Mr. Ferguson?
Several years ago, I seem to recall the state of Florida passed a law where our returning veterans who didn't have college diplomas could become teachers. Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong on that, but I thought, isn't there a provision where, yes, within the last 3 or 4 years? So they, and I think they may or may not have even had an AA degree, but then they had a certain number of years to attain that qualification. Why did we do that? Because we had a deficit in terms of people who are able and willing to serve as teachers. I thought I heard staff indicate that we have a deficit. This is an essential position that needs to be filled, and they're trying to expand, if you will, the pool of potential applicants. So in that regard, I always say, you know, let's be cognizant of the forest and not just focus so much on the tree. So yeah, ideally, I would love for everybody who works at the school district to have a master's or a doctorate degree, but that's not necessarily practical in some situations. And it sounds like, even though, Mr. Kubrick, if I apply for this job, man, I'm not starting for 44. But in all seriousness, though, I mean, it sounds like the needs mandate that we, again, kind of spread our net out a little bit wider to get these very essential workers into the place to help make sure that our schools are always the best choice for all children. So I think what Chair Brill has said and what Board Member Savieto has said is well received, but I do think in this regard, the principals are on the front lines. They're seeing this day after day and year after year. And so while I might too want everybody to have an AA degree, it doesn't sound like that's practical at this point in time. And because of what Chief Academic Officer said, Board Member Branch, I was with you as well, but she's saying that's not even an option on the table now. So since it's not an option on the table, this does feel like our best choice right now. So again, I'm going to support the change to the job qualifications.
Ms. Branch?
And I think the principals know that if someone doesn't have an AA degree, but they work at their school and they know they're capable and they can get the training, that they should be able to apply for the job. Thank you.
Ms. Whitfield?
Thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to say that I feel that the principals so rarely ask us for these kind of changes that we should be supporting them through this. I think Ms. Savieto's idea about experience being written in there as a potential way to mitigate some of the educational or the lack of educational experience that they could get through their work experience might be a really good idea to add that in there. So, I'd be happy to make a motion to add that piece in, but I would like to approve this so that the principals can go ahead and hire for this position. Thank you.
Okay, any other discussion? Oh, Ms. Savieto.
Yes, I will support it if we add the experience piece. Otherwise, I'm not.
Mr. Burke?
So with the job description, if you look down at the qualifications, there is a qualification that says, must have knowledge of after-school care programs. It's qualification number 5. And I think that kind of gets us where we need to be. Our principals are not going to hire somebody that has no experience in this area.
Then why can we put it? Because knowledge is not experience. You may know something, doesn't mean you've done it.
Well, I'm comfortable with the recommendation. If the board wants to offer a motion to amend the job description, the board has the pleasure of doing that.
Ms. Brill?
So actually, I'm going to amend the motion for the superintendent to bring it back with new language for us. And that will be my amended motion.
Ask a question, please.
Okay.
Thank you.
Whitfield?
So, Mr. Superintendent, if we,
Point of order, it has to be seconded before we can have discussion, right? There's been no second, has there?
No, there hasn't been a second. Anybody want a second, Mrs. Brill?
The maker of the motion has amended her motion.
Amended.
And so there has to be a second on it.
Can somebody second it? Mr. Lang, all right? Ms. Whitfield?
Thank you. I just wanted to ask a question. If this would then hinder our staff from being able to be hired in time for the school year?
I believe it could, because we're preparing for the new school year, and we are fortunate to have our 21st Century grants. Those funds were held up for a while. But let me double check here. I want to check with Ms. Bishop. Mr. Kubrick, what's the time sensitivity on this? How quick do we need a revision?
She's here. She's back there.
Ms. Howell?
Dr. Howell is coming
Ms.
up.
Howell, our Director of Extended Learning, is going to...
So while they're looking for that, I'll amend the motion to bring it back time certain at our next board meeting.
Okay, all right. And that's what you second, okay? Any more discussion?
The motion is to bring back a job description, amended job description.
I would still like to hear from Dr. Howell if possible.
Okay, all this is going on here.
Good evening. Currently, we have 8 vacancies. This position has been very difficult to hire in. We've had these vacancies in about 75% turnover rate. Right now, we've lost 2. So right now, we have a total of 9 vacancies in this position, with 8 being open for the past year and a half.
Okay. Ms. Whitfield?
Thank you so much. So I think that what we should do, what I would prefer to do, and this would be an alternative motion, to place some experience in line 2 rather than the associate's degree, just to be able to talk about the work or experience in social work or human resources, whatever it is that we need to do to place a little bit of experience in there, and then we could approve that tonight.
I can support that.
Is she making a motion? Are you making
Yeah,
a
that would be a motion to add in to line 2, taking out the associate's degree, however, just leaving the rest where we say experience in social work or human resources.
I'll second her motion.
Got a second? Any more not discussion? Oh, who's second? Virginia, okay. Any more discussion? Okay. All right. All those in favor? Any opposes? Okay, so we got 2. I think we got, and I'm going in favor.
So I'm voting in favor of it.
So it's so moved, passed.
So we have to read the vote.
Okay.
So read the vote.
So we want everybody
So,
to.
so you had 2 opposed?
5
in favor and 2 opposed.
Yeah, 5 in favor, 2 opposes.
You voted in favor too?
Yes. Okay.
Okay, so
Ferguson
the-
is-
so it
passes.
was Ms. Branch and Mr. Ferguson in opposition.
All right, Ms. Brill, we go back to your amendment unless you withdraw it. The original amendment.
Well, that was withdrawn, and I went with Ms. Whitfield's amendment.
Okay. So does everyone understand Mrs. Whitfield's amendment, which has been passed? So hopefully you understood. Now we're going back to the original motion. All in favor?
So are we voting for the superintendent?
The superintendent's recommendation. All in favor?
So the superintendent's as amended, they're voting for it as amended, so you voted against
Amended.
it. It's as amended.
You voted against the amendment, but you can still vote for the full motion if you'd like with
Right,
the amendment.
because your
It's up to you.
amended motion you withdrew just now, I thought I
No,
heard you say.
Ms. Whitfield's passed, so now that's what we're voting on.
Your
No, we're
Amended-
voting on her putting in on line
Mine's
2.
fine.
The amended.
Okay, so I'm not voting for that.
yeah.
So just as clarification, Mrs. Whitfield's substitute motion passed.
Right.
We are now, Mrs. Andrews has asked to go back to the original motion.
Okay.
Because if you recall, we divided the question, we pulled out the section, so there are still 2 other job descriptions that the board needs to vote on. And so for clarity and for the board, Mr. Superintendent can read it again, but it's as amended at this point.
Okay.
For my own clarification, we're going back to the main motion on
A and C.
just
Other 2.
the other 2, or we're still dealing with the B, the
See? It's not just me and Branch,
I know
even the
Ms.
superintendent's
Ms.
confused. Look at
Whitfield's
this.
motion was approved to add experience to the job
To
description.
be, yes.
Was the job description itself as amended approved? Did we get that vote?
Yes.
That was.
Yes, that one was.
That was 5-2.
Sorry, and I missed
Yes.
that. Okay, so that takes us back to the other 2 job descriptions, which is the middle school after-school programming liaison, which is new, the board certified behavior analyst, which is new, and my recommendation is I recommend the school board approve the job descriptions as submitted.
Okay. Ms. Branch?
We need a motion.
Okay. Do we have a motion?
Motion by Ms., I think I can take it back now. So motion by Ms. Branch. Did you have it?
We had the motion, but we just
Okay. Okay, so any further discussion? Okay, all in favor? All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. So we are now at time certain, so I'm going to take a motion now to suspend this special meeting until the conclusion of the time certain tentative budget adoption meeting. Motion by Mr. Lane, second by Ms. Whitfield. I'll give everybody a moment to just go into the meeting. So this is now, okay, I will, okay. Okay, is there any discussion? All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Okay, the first public hearing regarding the 2025-2026 tentative budget is now called to order. The final hearing to adopt the budget will be held on September 10, 2025 at 5:05 p.m. The purpose of these hearings is to listen to the public regarding the superintendent's proposed millage rates and tentative budget. The board's agenda for this meeting includes the proposed millage levies, agenda item B1, and the tentative budget for fiscal year 2026, agenda item B2. The school board may and will amend the tentative budget prior to the final public hearing in September. Okay, so just give me 1 minute because for some reason I'm not where I should be. Okay, the Budget Advisory Committee report is attached, and we do have one speaker for public comment. I'll call him up right now. Mr. Longhofer, President of CTA.
Thank you very much. Good evening, Board Chair Brill, Vice Chair Andrews, Superintendent Burke, members of the board, and honored guests. I am Gordon Longhofer, President of the Palm Beach County Classroom Teachers Association. Tomorrow is Teacher Fest 2025, where together we will welcome teachers who are new to Palm Beach County this year. Typically, that means over 800 of them. They will join what we know is and has again been proven to be the best place in Florida to teach. We are again an A-rated district, and we have zero, I said zero, D and F rated district-operated schools. That is no small task, and it's a direct result of the work that our predominantly highly effective teaching force has done and what they do daily to meet and teach their students every day in classrooms. Such sustained success should continually be rewarded in both words and deeds. Tonight, you are considering the tentative adoption of the 2026 budget for Palm Beach County schools. And although we can agree that funding for schools all too often does not meet expectations or even needs, we can also agree that to recruit and retain a teaching force such as the one we have, we must prioritize educator compensation in ways that allow them to focus exclusively on their daily tasks in classrooms, free of life's distractions that might take their attention away from their work, so they may lead and guide their students to reach their full potential, giving those students the best opportunity at success in life. In short, we must find the funds necessary to get the job done. I strongly encourage you to consider all the resources available to you in order to determine if this proposed budget meets your priorities, especially where the recruitment and retention of highly effective teachers is concerned. You are the ultimate decision makers. You have time now to ask tough questions and you have the authority to ultimately chart a different path if you believe it necessary in order to pursue our mission of educating, affirming, and inspiring all students in our school district. Therefore, I urge you to keep these thoughts in mind tonight and in the coming weeks as you seek not just to maintain our level of success, but also to build on it in the days and years to come. The students, families, and teachers in Palm Beach County will thank you for it. I wish you all a good evening.
Thank you. Mr. Superintendent, I'm going to turn the meeting over to you.
Yes, first I'd like to welcome Ms. Rebecca Sizzle, our Vice Chair of the Budget Advisory Committee, one of our unsung heroes that volunteers their time to comb through the budget. And of course, you all know Ms. Heather Frederick, our Chief Financial Officer. Before you this evening are two agenda items I am recommending for the millage levies and the 2025-2026 tentative budget. These items are brought forward to comply with TRIM, which stands for Truth in Millage legislation. Before I make my recommendations, Ms. Frederick will present the millage rates and the proposed budget, and I believe we're also going to hear from our Vice Chair.
Correct. Good evening, board members. Before I get started and give a budget overview, I want to pass it over to Ms. Sizzle, and I want to thank Ms. Sizzle for volunteering her time as well as all of the Budget Advisory Committee members. They are all volunteers, and they are a dedicated group of volunteers that provide oversight and transparency to this budget process. So I wanted to thank her and then allow her to give the report from the Budget Advisory Committee.
Thank you so much for that introduction. Good evening. The Budget Advisory Committee has completed its review of the superintendent's proposed fiscal year 2026 tentative budget. We acknowledge this has been a challenging budget cycle marked by federal uncertainty and state funding increases that are immediately absorbed by mandatory costs. The committee commends the district for its proactive measures, including implementing a non-instructional hiring freeze. This proposed $5.87 billion budget is balanced, aligns with the district's strategic plan, and prudently allocates resources to prioritize students and educators. We support the investments in student engagement through the enhancement of high school athletics and band programs, as well as the capital projects planned. The committee recognizes future financial challenges, particularly the limited increases in operational state funding. The Budget Advisory Committee supports the superintendent's recommendation for the tentative adoption of the fiscal year 26 budget and millage rates as presented on July 30th, 2025. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Ms. Sizzle. All right, so you have the choice. You can either stay or you can leave.
I'll head to the back and watch a little.
Okay, all right.
Thank you.
All right, so today we're nearing the culmination of the FY26 budget development process with adoption of the tentative budget. It will be finalized on September 10th with the adoption of the final budget. And there will be amendments between this tentative adoption and the final budget that's adopted on September 10th. So we have had 4 budget advisory committees meetings as well as 4 board workshops. This has been a very challenging year. And it seems like almost I say that every year, but this is the first year where on the end of the year or just starting into this new fiscal year, we had $30 million of federal programs placed on hold. And we were with an uncertain timeline of when those funds could possibly be released. We received positive news on July 25th that all of those funds have been released, but we've never been in that position of uncertainty like we have this current year. It shows we're not only dependent on state funds, but we're also very dependent on federal funds as well. I want to start with an overview of the property values. So we had a pretty significant increase in property values in 2023, from 23 to 24, 24 to 25, increases of 15 and 20% in property values. We are now stabilizing with increases in our property values. We're back to 5% increases, but the increases in our property values do not align with the increases that we receive in state funding. And so even though we have increases of 5% with our property values, our increase in per student funding is only 1.3%, which is the lowest that we've seen if you look back over the past 10 years. When we move on to the millage rate, the majority of the millage rate is set by state law and state statute. The board really has very limited authority. And our total millage rate this year is 6.321, which is a slight increase over the prior year millage rate of 0.11%. That millage rate of 6.321 is 4.06% greater than the rollback rate. The rollback rate is the rate that would be applied to that newer, higher property value that would generate the same amount of revenue that we generated this current year. So what does this mean to an average homeowner? So an average homeowner with a home value of $300,000 that has the homestead exemption of $25,000 with no assumed increase within the assessed value would see an increase of $1.93 with their taxes. The total budget of the school district for FY26 is $5.872 billion. The largest increase is within the capital projects program. That's a result of the passage of the half-cent sales tax that the voters approved in November of 2024. The increase within the general fund of $100 million represents primarily an increase of $68 million in our FEFP funds, $50 million of which is flowing through directly to the family empowerment vouchers. So it's not actually revenue of the school district. When you look at our general fund, the increase in the statewide base student allocation is $41, but the increase in our Palm Beach County School District base student allocation is only $14.85. And that's a result of a decrease in our comparable wage factor, which is a state formula, and we had a reduction in that cost of living increase this year. The overall increase in per student funding that I mentioned is only 1.3%, truly the lowest that we've seen in the last 10 years. We had an increase in our state funding of $18 million that was immediately absorbed by the $6 million state mandate for a teacher compensation categorical, and $12 million, which is the amount that the district agreed to fund that employee health premiums. When we look at the capital projects fund, we have our 10-year capital plan, and that plan is balanced and is included in the budget for your review. And with our special revenue funds, our state and federal grant funds for this year, FY26, are expected to be the same and similar as FY25. We are going to continue to monitor the landscape as the federal budget, as the review of the federal budget goes underway, to see how future years may be impacted. We will also continue to monitor the impacts of tariffs. And like I said, the federal grant landscape for future years from FY27 and beyond. We are really dependent, truly dependent on the state legislature. We only have enough funding available based on the amount of funding that's provided by the state legislature, and it's very difficult when the increases we're receiving in state funding are 1%. We also have many underfunded mandates and just regular mandates from the Florida legislature. The Florida legislature sets our FRS rates, which are the pension rates. We are underfunded for the amount we spend on our ESE students, our transportation, as well as safety and security. The school district spends well over the amounts that we are allocated from the state. We need to continue to monitor our enrollment because our funding is dependent on our enrollment. And so we will be watching carefully the start of school and also just rising costs from healthcare to other operational costs such as electricity. So we had our special meeting this evening where the board approved the capital plan. We have now, the board will have before them the resolution to adopt the tentative millage rates, and B2, the resolution adopting the tentative budget. And then on September 10th, we'll have final adoption of both the millage rates as well as the district budget.
All right, thank you, Ms. Frederick. I'll read the recommendation for agenda item B1. I recommend the school board adopt the proposed millage levies of 6.3210 mils for fiscal year 2026. The total millage rate is 4.06% greater than the rollback rate and is made up of 3.062 mils for required local effort, 0.011 mils for prior period required local effort adjustment, 0.748 mils for discretionary operating, 1.500 mils for local capital improvement, and 1.000 mils for additional operating.
Motion by the superintendent, second by Ms. Whitfield. Any discussion? Sorry, motion by Vice Chair Andrews.
What district do you represent, Superintendent Burke?
Sorry. That's what happens when you get distracted and you get punchy. So the motion was by Vice Chair Andrews, second by Ms. Whitfield. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor, all opposed, motion carries unanimously.
Okay, agenda item B2. I recommend the school board adopt the tentative district summary budget in the amount of $5,872,280,380 for fiscal year 2026. This includes the district's organizational chart and school board statement of its organization and operation.
Okay, motion by Ms. Branch, second by Ms. Whitfield. Any discussion? All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. So I'll now take a motion to adjourn. Motion by Ms. Branch, second by Vice Chair Andrews. Any discussion? All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. That will bring us back to our special meeting, and our discussion item was Whitfield.
Thank you so much. I know I'm holding everybody up from leaving now, but I'll be very quick. I wanted to talk to you all about You're good? I know I've got about hours. I'm good. I wanted to talk to you all about the Lake Worth pool a little bit. One of the things that we just approved through the capital plan was funding for the Lake Worth pool for a replacement from the school district. The amount that we put in there from the school district is $8.5 million. As we all know, that falls very, very short of what the amount of funding would be needed to create an Olympic-sized pool. However, the City of Lake Worth Beach has allocated funds as well for this project, and I think this would be a really good opportunity for us to move forward. I know it's written into the plan to work with the City of Lake Worth Beach, but I wanted to make sure that I was bringing this to my fellow board members so that you all would have an opportunity to weigh in. The City of Lake Worth Beach has about $6 million allocated currently. I've spoken to their city manager, interim city manager, who's aware of this conversation tonight and of the funding that we have allocated for this. It's my understanding that we could start moving forward with the idea of an Olympic-sized pool that would be a partnership between the City of Lake Worth Beach and the School District of Palm Beach County. And I want to make sure that you all are okay with that idea moving forward. I would personally like to see it, and I've spoken to the principal as well, on the Lake Worth High School campus. We do have space where I think it could fit nicely. There would need to be a staged approach in order to get all of the things that everybody would like to see at a community pool. However, I think it's possible that, with the cooperation of our COO, that we could move forward with a smaller, the Olympic-sized pool, but a plan that would include getting the pool done sooner than later with a partnership with the city, allowing the community to have a joint use agreement with it, where we also have opportunity to use it, and then any additional things would have to be planned out by the City of Lake Worth going forward. So does anybody have any questions for me or concerns or thoughts?
Okay, Mr. Burke?
I just want to say I think we're thinking the same. I appreciate the discussion. I also appreciate the board just previously approving the budget and the capital plan. So we do have $8.5 million to work with. That's not going to be enough to get the whole pool completed, so we need a good partner in the City of Lake Worth Beach, and I'm very comfortable with asking Mr. Sanchez to work with the city manager and see what we might be able to hash out in terms of finding a location, if we can make that work on our campus or in a nearby park. So.
Thank you. And so I just wanted to also add that I spoke to the superintendent about that when I saw the discussion item, and he said we're already doing that. So next is Mr. Ferguson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So not when, and I know where the where is. I think you just said you prefer it to be on this campus of Lake Worth High School if at all possible, but do we have an idea what the final construction amount the bill would be? They have 6 and we have 8. I know you said 8 is woefully short of what we'll need, so need to finish it, so what is that amount?
I will tell you, Mr. Ferguson, from my chat GPT request that I asked, I found out that it's about $15 million for a really, really basic pool. However, the larger bells and whistles is probably closer to 30. But I think what the first step would be is to get some quotes on what could possibly be done on that property.
And has the City of Lake Worth Beach expressed how they're going to go about coming up with that shortfall? Because that's about 50% of the construction cost is still unaccounted for, so.
Well, so
said
they are working on a larger long-term plan that, we'd have to talk to the commission about. I know that they have some plans in the works, but those are so far out for them to make those decisions. That's why I was thinking that we should propose a staged approach to this, where we get at least the pool done so that there is a pool for the children in Lake Worth, specifically at our high school, that, they really would like to see it. And then anything additional that the city would like to do, they have plans going forward, potentially working with, different RFP processes that may come up next year.
So will we be basically paying for essentially an interim pool while this?
No, I want to make the pool. I would like to make a pool. It would just be, there's some other things that you can add to a pool. So they may want to add a splash pad. They may want to add, fancy locker rooms, things like that. So I think I would obviously have to leave it up to, staff to come back with what could be afforded, and with the City of Lake Worth Beach's partnership. Really, I just want to make sure that you all are okay with exploring this on an official level, so that we can get those answers to those questions.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Savalleto?
Thank you. Thank you, Board Member Whitfield. That's not my school, but I graduated from Lake Worth High, so let's go Trojans, many moons ago. So I'm very excited, not only for the people in Lake Worth, but we have Palm Springs, which is my district. They would drive to Lake Worth. We're so close together, and the people that live in Lake Worth are very, similar to my people. So I love the fact that we can work and hopefully have it in Lake Worth High School. I think they deserve that. We deserve it. It was the first school with a pool, so we don't want to, take that away. So count me in for anything that I can do, and if we have to beg to some of our business partners to come in and maybe help us with some construction stuff, you never know, right? I mean, we have to put it out there, but we definitely need our community, to maybe help us, and if we don't ask, they will never know, right? I mean, so we can put a list of doing a baby shower, or put it in Amazon list. And I think this would be amazing for the community. I believe that our children need to be taught, how to swim from an early age, so they don't go through what my family went through so many years ago. And it's still happening. We have the Lake Worth, the beach, and we have so many bodies of water across our county. So appreciate you, taking the torch and then moving along, and I'll be your #1 fan on the pool for Lake Worth. Thank you so much.
Ms. Branch?
Thank you. I think it's great if they want to partner with us. I have quite a few things. Liability on the school campus, because everybody wants to see the school district. Upkeep, maintenance, safety on the weekends. I think I have a lot of questions if we put it on the campus. I know you want it on the campus. I've heard and I understand it. But I have a lot of questions with liability, it being on the school campus. It's open on the weekends, the upkeep of it, the maintenance, and then safety. So those are my things I definitely would want to see. Thank you.
I just say those are all valid points, and that's something that we will work, with Mr. Sanchez and our team, and we would try to bring a recommendation that takes all those factors into consideration, but understood. Well, points well made.
Okay, Vice Chair Andrews?
And thank you, Ms. Whitfield. When we were sitting here last, we didn't have this information. Thank you for putting that in as a discussion item. I think when we work with our business partnerships, our cities, we can get things done. This is just a start, but we're on a positive roll. We're going to make it happen. So I know there are options and concerns, but there's Mr. Sanchez. He's been getting it done for us and working with the community and the business partners. We're going to get it done. Thank you. That's good news tonight. Thank you.
Ms. Savalleto?
Yeah, I would assume that when we have pools and anything, we would have laws and regulations and setups and guidelines. And we have a pool in Boca Raton, right? The same liabilities and all this lingo for our attorneys are in place. So this, Ms. Branch, would not be any different from, the pool that you have in your district.
I don't
Ms.
believe we
Branch?
have the one at Boca High is not with the city of Boca. Did they pay for that?
No, Boca High is unique. It's our only high school now that has a pool on its campus, and it was built as part of that, the facility renewal when we
Right.
rebuilt Boca High. That was something we were able to add to the campus. That pool is primarily used by the school. There are
Right.
opportunities for outside groups to lease the pool. And so when we enter into leases, we take all that liability, all those considerations
So it's a
into
totally
play.
different situation. So it's not the same. So I want to be clear. I know everybody wants to compare everything to Boca and Boca this and Boca that, but it's not the same situation. I'm concerned about maintenance because the budget's very tight. And then, we get the pool built, and then, oh, no, you're on the hook for it, and everybody wants to sue the school district. So that's my concern. I'm not comparing it to any other city or anything right out. My concern is if we do a partnership with the city, the maintenance, the safety, the upkeep, et cetera, that's my concern. It's not the same as the Boca High pool. Thank you.
And so I just want to add in, first of all, a thank you to Mr. Burke for listening to the board as they talked about this, but also a thank you to him because I turned to him with the concern that you have, Ms. Branch, and that he's going to make sure in his discussions that liability will be taken care of. But I think that it's been a great effort between, from the community and the superintendent and his willingness to work with the community. But we've got to put all those pieces in place because, yes, you're right. Unfortunately, we're sometimes a target. So with that, I don't see anybody else that wants to speak. I'll take a motion to adjourn. Motion by Ms. Branch, second by Ms. Whitfield. Any discussion? All in favor, all opposed, motion carries unanimously.